Head into the unknown, down the rabbit hole, where it stops no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Well, hello, everybody. What's up? Hi, Jen.
Hi, Teresa. How are you doing?
Thank you for joining me tonight.
Of course.
I'm freezing. And it's like
Are
50
you?
degrees. Yeah.
It's hotter than 9 kinds of hell here. I'm telling you.
It's not.
Well,
hot.
I mean, it's not, but I am. Like, I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm hotter than 9 kinds of hell.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Hi, Mia. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Eye in the Sky. Hi, Jessica. And Sunset Gazing. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Mama Shellbell. I love your intro. Well, thank you very much. Hi, KW. Hi, Patricia. I already said hi to Patricia, but I'll say it again. Hi, Dominic. Hi, Amber and CB Cal. Sundown Farms. And Sweet Caroline. Dun,
Ba,
dun,
ba,
dun.
ba.
Hi, Combat Bet Price. Hi, Angela. Hi, Cement Shoes. Hi, Queen. Hi, Allie. Long time no see. Hi, BR the Star. What's up, Joe? What's up, y'all?
Everybody's here. Oh, look at
Everybody's
CB Cal dropping my link saying an amazing channel. That's so nice. Y'all are so
It is
nice.
an amazing channel. I'm just thinking, like, I can't believe it's already been a week since I was over on your channel. Like,
I know.
Hi, Kate.
That was
Hi,
a good
Ruby.
live.
It was a good live. It was a really good live.
It really
so
was.
much has happened. So much has happened since then, though.
Right. It's like 8 years ago in Murdaugh trial time.
God, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
I can't.
Okay. So today was a short day, and I was live. I was actually watching it live most of the time. Which
Good job. I'm proud of you.
I didn't like it.
Why?
Well, because then they take like all these breaks, and they kept sending the freaking jury out, and I'm like, now I'm just stuck here. Like, what do I do? Like, normally I like fast forward through it. So
For whatever reason, I seem to like that. Do you know what I did the other day, like a whole maniac? So every once in a while, YouTube will give me suggestions. And one of the suggestions was like 30 minutes of commercials from the 80s. And I don't even like commercials, but for whatever reason, I freaking clicked that. Yes, I freaking clicked that. They had Rainbow Bright cereal. What else? Did you know that Burger King used to serve Pepsi? I had forgotten that.
I do think I remember that now that you bring it up.
Yeah. So that's what I sat and watched for 30 minutes was freaking commercials.
That's probably nice, actually. It's probably nice and relaxing.
It kind of was. So maybe doing that has made me I mean, don't get me wrong. I do get annoyed when all of a sudden the jury's, dismissed.
I was frustrated. I was frustrated because I couldn't fast forward, so everything was on normal speed. So I couldn't watch anything. And I was like, these guys talk so slow. At 1.5, they're kind of normal to me. And now I'm like, it was like dragging. I was like, oh, it's irritating.
Well, and it depends too on what they're talking about. Like sometimes the breaks in between is a good conversation, but sometimes it's really just bleh.
Yeah, no. Hi, Weeping Willow. Mia, it's your first time here? Oh, I guess I've been over on yours. I've seen you, so I just feel like we're meant to be. Okay, so where do we even start? I've been trying to update my timeline with all this new timeline stuff, and some of the stuff is different. And I was wondering if LFT was going to pop in because I was going to see if she found a lot of things to be different as well.
Well, I will say just from watching and remembering, some things are different, yes, but not like vastly different. Just, and maybe different isn't even the right word, more nailed down maybe is the right word. Yes, there you go.
I got you. Hi, Britt. Hi, LFT. There you are. I was just talking about it.
Yeah, is how I felt about it.
Wouldn't you think the jury would wonder why they keep being sent out? If I was on jury, I'd be thinking this AM guy is suspicious, and that would maybe change my vote. I don't know. I think that they probably have realized that these attorneys like to fight with each other, and they're not allowed to do fun stuff. Hi, Karen.
You know what was funny today? The jury wants to elect their own foreperson. And Judge Newman was like, I don't know who put that in their head, but we do it different here. And I decide who's going to be the foreperson. I just thought it was so funny.
I just need to get that on the record that's why I said what I said yesterday.
Yeah, the judge is like, listen, no more fucking around. You guys are all trying to just do things and run over me, and I'm putting my foot down. I've had enough of jokers.
Foreman thing. You guys aren't picking your own foreman. What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm running the show here.
I'm gonna pick it. That's why I did. I was like, dang. All right then.
Yeah, he's tired. He's had enough. Harpootlian today. I mean, straight out the gate, number one question. We're having a failure to communicate. Are you kidding me, Poot?
Well, they did kind of have a failure because he asked the question and he kind of said like, "Well, I don't really know," because Poot likes to kind of make the questions more complex than they need to be, in my opinion. And so then the answer wasn't accurate. And so as he starts going through, and he's like, "Wait, I think we're not communicating because this is my question and you're not answering it."
Yeah, but he did answer him. He said, I'm not a doctor. I can read the words that are on this page, but I can't interpret what they mean. I don't know what that means. And when he said hematoma, a hematoma really is a bruising. It really is, like.
Which is kind of bleeding, right?
Bleeding under, well, yeah, but it's not like, I mean, Poot, you're not a doctor either. And at the end of the day, I don't even know why this is what I don't understand about his fuss. How are you going to fuss about things when you yourself and Mr. Griffin, who I'll get to him in a minute, and Alec were on a three-way conversation with the Popo where Alec confessed to everything? But you're having an issue. Why are you going so hard at Detective Kelly when your client confessed everything in the end? Under your supervision, under your direction.
I don't think they like each other. I think that was kind of an underlying thing. I think they already have issues based on just their interactions with each other. They don't like each other.
Oh, Poot just gets to turn too quick. Like, slow your roll, sir. And then I'm pretty sure Jim Griffin had a highlights magazine today, and that's what Poot gave him to keep him busy. Maybe he was doing hidden objects. Yeah,
like, doing. Not to be able to present our defense, you need to be quiet, Jim. Stop talking.
Correct. Like, he's just giving him busy work. He's giving him hidden objects. He's over there reading about Goofus and Gallant, word searches, those kinds of things, mazes, keep busy work. So he'll be quiet, not interrupt.
The coroner today was the star. I almost texted Jen Lou when the coroner was on the stand. I was like, wait a minute. The flipping coroner's testifying on the defense side. This is ridiculous. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let's just see what he has to say. And then I was like, never mind. I'm not going to text her. I'm not going to. He's like, it did
Who was
not work.
I missed the coroner. I missed the coroner. So what did the coroner say?
That you missed the coroner?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Hi, Queenie. The coroner said that he basically was called out there because his deputy coroner is a part-time deputy coroner who was on call, and he couldn't do it because he actually had to work his regular job the next day. So he had to go out and do it. But he normally does anything that's like this high, like, what did he say? Like, he didn't just say homicide, but he was like, something like a major homicide kind of thing. So he said the first thing he does when he goes out is he goes and he goes to check them, and they were already covered by the time he got there. So to check, to see like how warm they were, he puts his hands in their armpits.
Okay.
This is when I was like, never mind, I'm not going to text her.
Well,
never mind. This is just so I'm not even going to say anything. He's like, yeah. So I stick my hand in their armpit and I can see if it's still warm or not. He's like, I normally use a rectal thermometer, but there was a lot of people there, so I'm not going to like pull down their pants and stick anything in their bum.
That was nice of him. Although I have some questions about sticking your hand in somebody's armpit, right? A decedent's armpit, because you would think that you would do that with a gloved hand. But I suppose...
Can't tell their temperature then.
Well, I mean, you won't be able to tell it'll be off a little bit, but I will say this. When somebody's cold, you definitely know it. So,
well, true.
I suppose it would be all right.
He was gauging the time of death based on how warm their armpit was.
That does not at all seem accurate, at all like scientific. I have to say, the coroner for that county, who was it? Do you know?
Oh, I don't even remember his name. I'm trying to get, like, my lights are all weird. I'm like all bright red and weird stuff. So hold on.
It wasn't Washington, was it?
No, it was like,
okay.
No, but he's been the coroner for like 30 years.
Then it had to be Washington because he was because it's a different county. Never mind. Because Stephen Smith's death was Hampton County. And
they normally do like liver temps to determine cause of death. I've never even heard
time of death
down their pants and doing rectals. Hi, ATS.
I
adjusted date.
This is what I know. This is has been my experience, that the coroner comes out, pronounces death, takes custody of the body, transports the body wherever it's going to go for autopsy, which is then when they do, like, they'll note, like, the liver mortis or whatever, or as they say in the business, liver mortis. They'll note all of that. They'll take pictures, note, all the things. And then they usually do that back at the, Britt.
I know. That's why I was like, oh, Brittany, that's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, they usually do that back wherever the autopsy is going to happen. So, because this is Colleton County, and Stephen
he's the coroner for that.
Yeah, okay, because Washington was the coroner at in Hampton County. So I forgot.
He kind of looks like a skinny Santa.
Oh.
And he kept saying that they were in Riger. They weren't in Riger yet. And Riger, takes, a couple hours or whatnot. And he was like, kept saying Riger. And even Poot was like, okay, is it okay if I say Rigger? Because I've always called it Rigger. And he's like, yeah, I just say Riger. I was like, oh, all right then. So he determined their time of death to be approximately 9 o'clock. So the biggest thing that he was up there to do was, like, well, I'll give him this, because, the 911 call was made at 10:06. And he was actually, like, on scene. He was contacted at 10:30 and was on scene by, like, I think it was 11:04 is what he said.
Wow.
I was like, I've never heard of a coroner ever getting to a scene that quickly. So
No, me either.
BR says tomato, tomato. Yeah, I've
I
never heard of
mean, maybe he thinks it sounds faster. You know what this trial reminds me of?
Never heard.
It reminds me of maybe just because I've been watching it lately, but Twin Peaks a little bit, but in the South.
Oh man, maybe.
So it's like Twin Peaks and Mayberry.
A little bit, yeah. Because he's like, the deputy couldn't stay all night because he had to get to work in the morning. But that was my Brittany J.
That was a pretty good twang.
That was pretty good, right?
Just do it a little slower.
I gotta talk slower.
Yeah, just do it slower.
I have a medical degree. He was the coroner. He was not a medical examiner. He was
right.
He was a coroner. So
a coroner is an elected official, y'all. It's just basically a pencil pusher. He handles the paperwork and he's the one. He or she is the person who issues the death certificate. That's pretty much it.
Hi, C-Dub. Hold on. The deputy called the coroner, and apparently the deputy is in Alex's pocket per MMP.
Oh.
The deputy coroner is? Hi, Christy. Huh. All right. Okay, so first up was the cross exam about the shooting, about the roadside shooting. I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought that the witnesses in the last couple of days have been the best witnesses by far of the entire trial, in my opinion.
I agree.
Like, they literally could have done like the first couple of days where they set the scene and then thrown these few people up there, and I would have been like, okay, I got you.
Right. It's a whole different trial these last 2 days.
Yeah, it was like it actually makes sense. The guy, oh shoot, I don't remember his name. The expert yesterday who was going over the trajectory and
yeah, we call him Dr. Professor, Deputy
Sergeant,
Chief.
Something.
Hoogie, I think is how you say it.
Yeah, he was good. I was like, now I actually understand what the heck. It was like they literally watched my live, and I was like, I'm confused about this. And they were like, okay, Teresa, we'll put somebody on the stand that'll make it really easy for you. Then they did, and I was like, thank you. Because I did not understand the shot to Maggie through the left breast. It just made zero sense to me the way that pathologist was trying to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I could not understand how she would have been shot in the bottom of her boob. It just made no sense.
Do you understand it now?
Oh yeah, totally makes sense now. I didn't really get the whole the impression from the wheel, because they've been really pushing that it was like a shoe print this whole time, and now all of a sudden it's like a wheel, like a tire imprint, and but it wasn't, there was no pressure on it, so it's like she had to have like bumped into it. But if she bumped into it, how big is this bruise? And since we can't see the photos, we don't know how big the bruise is. That was kind of confusing to me. Still, no matter what he said.
Well,
someone else, coroner said the deputy called him to go to the scene. That his deputy coroner called him, right? Or the other deputy. I thought he said his deputy coroner called him, but maybe I was wrong.
What if I've been thinking about this after Decipher Podcasts Live, and they were talking about this, plus the witness testimony, because I listened to it last night because I went over yesterday's stuff in court. I was wondering if I'm sure there's a scientific word for this, but I only know it as flat tiring somebody. Like when somebody comes up behind you and they, like if you're wearing flip-flops, they step on your shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Or your kids, they bug you to let them drive the buggy at the grocery store, and you do, and they inevitably run into to the back of your leg, right at the ankle, whatever that is, your Achilles tendon, that right there, how they hit that every time. I've had all 4 of my kids have done it at least once.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So what if that's what happened? Like, it was a hit, but not a run over. You know what I mean? Like somebody was coming up behind her on the ATV and stopped, but didn't stop in time, and sort of it lurched a little forward and kind of banged into her a little bit, but not an actual like whole run over. Right.
Okay.
Like that.
So I guess my thought is like that's not happening at the time of the actual killing, or if they're trying to imply that, it didn't make sense to me.
Well, see, the problem is we can't see it, but I did hear when they were talking about it, I caught something that I had missed before, and the prosecutor Waters, he said this purple mark. So for me in my brain, a purple mark implies a bruise, and you can only get bruising if your heart is beating.
True.
There has to be blood flow. So you can, in theory, sustain an injury that will result in a bruise, even if your death is imminent. So
the chat wants you to see the corner, so I'm going to pull up the corner so that you
okay.
can,
Okay.
it's not very
all right.
long anyway, and I'll put it
okay.
on
No. I know that people just like to hear me say the most ridiculous shit and make fun of people. So here we go.
They're like, we're here for it. Okay, hold on. The girl at the end, maybe Brittany already answered, I don't know. But the girl at the end today was she worked at she's like a public information officer.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they had her up there was to go over that whole statement. If you remember back at the beginning of trial, the defense team keeps talking about how the very next day they put out a statement that there was no danger to the community, trying to make the point that Alec was the only person of interest from the get-go. So the whole thing was to show that they put that statement out, because as of right now, nobody's admitted to putting the statement out. So she came on to say, yeah, we worked with them to put with SLED to put the statement out.
They admitted that?
The girl did, yeah, in a roundabout way, but he's not always he's better on cross. Obviously, there's only been 2 witnesses for the defense so far today, so I mean, we'll see. But so far, I believe he's better on cross, because I know some of the things that they do on as the defense team seems very like redundant and kind of like, why are we doing this? But that's kind of the point. It's to get rid of all the positive things that this person who's on the stand said for the prosecution. They want to muddy all of that so that the jury doesn't remember it.
Correct. That's why he does. The Poot is the best at cross-examining. Like, he will spend an hour or 2 cross-examining a witness. Now, granted, like 45 minutes of that 2 hours is him saying, and then it's the other hour and 15 where he's actually asking full sentences. So yeah, bless his heart.
He gets a little fired up though. I like it.
I like when he whips his glasses off, because then you know he's not monkeying around. He's being serious.
I just a YouTuber bowling with cotton balls. I like that. Bowling with cotton balls.
Oh, hi, bowling. And you know what else I like? I like when he says, and I know people in law and crime can't stand it, but it makes me laugh every time he says, you would agree with me. Because every time he says that, all I can hear is Admiral Akbar from Star Wars as a trap. Don't fucking no. That's when you need to come from a place of no, it's a trap. My dad used to ask me questions in that cop kind of way. You know what I mean? Where he'd be trying to trip me up and see if he'd catch me in a lie. Spoiler alert, he didn't.
He couldn't.
No, I was on to it. No, he had to separate the witnesses. He had to separate my sister from me, and then she'd spill the beans, bless her heart.
Nice little sister.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they want your impression of the last girl too. Like I said, it's not very long, but hold on. I want to put it on 1.5 so that we can.
All right.
I can watch it like on normal speed for myself.
Right. Because your brain is on 1.5.
You guys can hear this, correct?
The state's case is now the defense's turn, and you may call your first witness.
Muffin.
All right. Coroner Richard Harvey, please.
Hey, everybody coming in. I'm going to mute way so this doesn't echo.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You would, sir, be seated. State your full name for the record. Spell the last part.
Okay.
And before we begin testimony, I think Mr. Waters, you're going to formally arrest.
May it please the court, Your Honor. In the matter of the indictments of the defendant Alec Murdaugh for the murders of his wife Maggie and his son Paul, the state of South Carolina rests.
The state is arrested, and now it's the defense's turn.
For reals now. We were just kidding before. Now it's for reals their turn.
My name is
Okay.
Richard Harvey. And Mr. Harvey, you are an elected official here in Colleton County?
Yes, sir. I'm the coroner of Colleton County.
Okay, and briefly describe your duties to the jury so they understand what a coroner does.
We basically investigate any death that occurs outside a hospital, any death that dies within 24 hours of admission to a hospital. Any emergency room death is reported to the coroner's office as well. And primarily our responsibility is to do an investigation as to the cause of their death, including medical records, autopsies, and that's basically my responsibility, is to determine what the cause of death and the manner of death is.
So,
Wait a minute. Stop the presses. The medical examiner is the one who determines the cause and manner of death, not the coroner. He has no medical training. That's poppycock straight off the bat. You sign off on the death
What he says
certificate.
about his medical experience. He hasn't said what his medical experience is.
Okay, let's hear his medical experience.
You're gonna love it. Hold on.
If he tells me he was a candy striper, y'all, I'm quitting the fucking internet right now.
But I was one of the first medically trained coroners in the state of South Carolina.
There you go.
Oh, look at you, medically trained. How were you medically trained? Let's hear it.
so let me talk a little bit about in general. Well, no, let me just go ahead and cut to the chase here. You have a file with you, and I believe it's a file concerning the deaths of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh.
I do.
And how did you get notified of their deaths?
I was actually notified by one of my deputies who was on call that evening.
Oh, so not
and
by
anything
smoke
under
signal. Okay.
homicide along that lines, in most cases, I attend those. And he was on call. And basically he told me he also has another job because he's only part-time. And he told me, he says, look, I can't stay. He says, I've got to work tomorrow morning. He says, I hate to dump this on you, but he says, but this is going to be yours.
So you took, well, first let me back up for just a second. Did you respond? And if so, what time did you get to the scene? And I'm going to lead you and say in Moselle.
I was notified at 23:04, which is 11:04 in the evening.
Okay.
And I arrived on the scene.
Wait, I got a minute. I got to say something. I like the Poots tie today. He's going for a seafoam green ensemble, and I'm enjoying it.
Shoot, what did I do? I hit something. Hold on.
Stop being petty, Poot. I know that's a dig at Blanca and her seafoam green.
Love the tie.
You petty man. I love it, Poot.
Hi, Salty.
If he was representing a different person, I would enjoy the Poot so much more.
I like him.
I mean, I do like him. It's hard for me, especially when he be giving Jim Griffin the faces. I'm working on something for everybody because of just the Poot's faces, because I love him so much.
Just on just his faces. You have to make sure you include the one where he chuckles during direct, and he's sitting in his seat and he chuckles, and then the attorney turns around and he's like, "Do you find that funny?"
Yes.
He's like, "Wait, hold on there, mister."
And he says, Your Honor. Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Could you instruct the prosecutor not to address me?
They're very respectful to the judge, though, I would say. I mean,
they are.
The judge says something, they do not argue back. Unlike, if you go back to like one of the last major trials that we were all watching, like Amber Heard, and I know it was, but like those attorneys and that judge, like they would banter, and like they don't give, this judge does not cut them any slack, and they do not give him any lip.
No, they don't. When he makes his ruling, he makes his ruling. But you know what else I like? They all do the if it pleases the court. If I were a judge, I would require anybody speaking before me as an attorney to say if it pleases the court. I would need to hear that.
Like when we go on other people's channels, should we be like, if it pleases the channel name?
Yes, that's what we need to do. If it pleases criminality, and then I'll make my sermon.
I'll just give you like a nod, like, yeah, go for it. Okay, I'm gonna play it.
All right.
Let me back up there. I arrived on the scene at 23:04. I was actually notified about 22:30 by my deputy who was on call.
So 22:30 would be 10:30?
Yes, sir.
So you got notified at 10:30, you got on the scene at,
At 11:04.
and were you by yourself?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Did you process this scene? Did you have somebody did you take photographs? Or somebody?
Yes, sir, I did.
Those are the photographs in your file.
Yes,
are your
sir.
photographs.
Yes, sir.
And in taking those photographs, did you, for instance, go into the feed room and take some photographs?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And had that crime scene been processed by SWET at that point?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you do anything to, and I'll be frank with you, there's some footprints that have been identified as law enforcement or perhaps your folks that were in the feed room, perhaps in blood, before SWET had finished processing. Are those your folks or SWET or who do you know?
I'm unaware of those.
Okay. So when you took those photographs, did you take precautions to, how do you not disturb evidence?
We've always kind of followed a pattern that we follow the same path in and the same path out. Therefore, we don't cross over into any possible assailants.
Okay. And again, you're preserving evidence to, it's a homicide, so this is your
Correct.
case, right? And you do that pursuant to state law.
Yes, sir.
And we've received your photographs. Thank you for those. I think you gave them to SWET also, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so you perform a function also. I've looked at the death certificates of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, and you have a time of death of 9 o'clock. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go through when you begin to examine the body to determine the time of death. Tell me how you do that.
Somebody give that person a Ricola in the courtroom.
Initially, that evening, when I initially got there, I was told that SLED was coming, which I knew, depending on where SLED was coming from. It depends. It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. It all depends on what part of the state and what group is actually coming to you. My initial processing was that I went and checked both bodies, and I simply put my hands in their armpits to determine how warm. This is one of the things we do sometimes to try and estimate a time of death. Is the body cold? Is the body warm? And one of the other things we check for is what they call rigor. And rigor is basically when a person dies, the body goes through this process, and as it goes through this process, your joints start to stiffen up. And when I initially got there, that was all I did initially because I knew SLED was coming.
So with rigor or rigor, I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
I call it rigor.
I call it rigor, but so
You say tomato, I say tomato. You
I've heard
say
it.
potato, I say potato. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Let's call the whole thing off. Oh,
Yeah.
pooch.
Well,
He
he's like, I
sticks-
call it rigor. Is that going to be okay with you?
Oh,
All right, so
pooch.
let me address chat real quick. So Kelly Pickler is she was on American Idol, and her husband unalived himself today.
Oh no.
So people are asking who Kelly Pickler is. And then Crystal made a
Sad.
comment up here. I know, very sad. Crystal, you said you watched this judge on another trial, and he was really like harsh. Do you remember what trial? Because I'd like to see him on another trial.
Well, I can tell you that he presided over some of the early hearings of Cousin Eddie.
So he knows all about Mr. Eddie.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Remember when I had a freak out today because there's not going to be court on Monday? And I said,
Yes.
what am I going to do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I found something to do. I'm going to do a whole Cousin Eddie episode so
Oh,
we
you
can be
totally
all
should.
prepared.
People
Yeah.
could know exactly who Eddie is, especially since he didn't testify, and the
Yes.
state rested.
Yeah. And
wonder
I
if
know
the
that the-
defense will
the-
call Eddie.
I thought about that, but I kind of think no, because the Poot wanted to cross-examine him, and it's hard to cross-examine your own witness.
Oh, that's true. It's true.
So Poot's dreams were dashed. Sorry, Poot.
Well, there was no way they were going to put Eddie up there. Eddie's not a good witness for the state.
Well, they don't
or the
they
defense.
didn't they
He's not a
don't
good
need
witness.
him. They don't really need him. I want to know what he has to say. However, he's got a court date coming up, and don't ask me when because I don't know right now. My brain can't think about that right this minute. But I mean, he's got a trial. He's talked about it. He wants his day in court, whatever. So at some point, we're going to find out exactly what Mr. Curtis Eddie Smith has to say about where he was and what happened and all the things. And, you know, we'll find out. We'll find out. We'll find out.
Oh yeah, they're definitely not done. They still have some other hearings or other charges I think they're involved in together. So
plus
it's
the
definitely
thing,
not over.
right?
Eddie
And they
has an allergy to the truth.
they don't they don't need Eddie. The state doesn't need Eddie. When they got the green light to bring in the situation, what do they call it? The roadside shooting, side of the
Yep.
road shooting, or roadside shooting.
Roadside
When
shooting,
they
yeah.
when they got permission to bring in and like the phone call between the Popo and Alec and his lawyers, excuse me. They don't need Cousin Eddie because they have Alec in his own words, which in my opinion, although Jim messed up, it actually helped the state because I think people were having a very, very difficult time understanding the motive here and how could Alec do what he did, right? For what? Because he doesn't have a tangible financial gain. Like there wasn't any life insurance. But
right.
when you hear the phone call and you hear Alec confessing, you can draw a connection between this. This is not a legal term. This is just a Jen Lou term. This fool will do anything to get out of trouble. There are no lengths to which he will not go. And so I felt like in that regard, it was, I think more people can understand. I think the jury is going to be able to understand it a little bit better. But at the end of the day, now this is what I'm really curious to see. What if the defense's smoking gun is the outfit that he was wearing?
I thought about this.
Snapchat.
What if they bring forward? If they brought that forward, it's going to. Well, they can't bring it forward now because they would have had to have disclosed it to the prosecution if they
Right.
had it, right? But the other thing is, could they? Because he's made it very clear that nobody's ever asked Alec for that shirt. They've never asked him for it. They've never asked him for the pants. They've never asked him for the shoes. Poop made sure to ask those questions. And as soon as he did, I was like, do they flipping have that shirt?
See, that's what I was thinking. And who said it? Also, when they were talking to Owens, Waters said on redirect, did he offer the shirt? Did he offer the pants? Did he offer the shoes? And then here comes Griffin said, do suspects frequently help solve the case?
Right.
Something to that effect, which makes me wonder, but they would have to disclose it, particularly if they had any tests done on it.
Well,
it would be through discovery.
They had that interview with with the caretaker Shelley that they didn't disclose that they had. So I'm like, it makes me wonder.
I'm going to have to look what the rules of discovery are because we learned not all states do it exactly the same. Like look at Idaho, they do it a little bit different, which is why she asked for the a co-defendant statement ahead of time, which I don't know. I know we're not talking about Idaho 4, but I guess Ann Taylor was cleared of any, what is it called?
Yeah. She met with the judge. Oh gosh.
Right.
Mallory, if you're still listening, Mallory did a video chat so I could watch it on News Nation while it was live yesterday when Ashley Banfield was on there talking about it. Dude, Ashley's like losing her ever-loving mind.
Of course she is.
I'm actually worried about her sanity at this point because she was like, woo!
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is, Ashley, there's no reason for you to lose your mind. You had a panel at one point of a couple of different attorneys, and they knew that there was no, what is the word I'm trying to look forward for? What is it they cleared her of?
That there's no
What is
conflict of interest.
conflict. I couldn't think of the word conflict of interest, which yours truly said back when this came out, that the truth of the matter is it wouldn't be a conflict of interest against Kara Kernodle. It would be against Brian Koberger, and all that would be required is for him to sign a waiver, and boom, bada bing, it's over. And Ashley Banfield, if she's losing her whole ass mind right now, it's her own damn fault. Ashley has but more resources than I do, for Pete's sake. I don't talk to lawyers on the regular, but you know what I do? Know how to use the Googles. I don't feel bad for her. Like, no, ma'am, you've been acting like a maniac, and I'm tired of it.
There's like a whole Twitter war about this, and it's still going on. Like, you're talking months later, and I'm sorry to totally get off topic because now we're
sorry. It's my fault.
It's okay. Because there's whole war online about whether this is a conflict or not a conflict. And as you said, I know that you mentioned it. I had mentioned it. I do not believe that there is a conflict. There makes no sense for there to be a conflict unless there was actually some type of drug deals going on that had to do with Xana's mom, and he actually was purchasing drugs. Like, that's the only way you're going to really get into a conflict here.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to me that these, I don't know what, like, very intelligent people are still arguing a month later that this is a conflict. I don't
get it either.
She's legit like fighting with herself in this camera because she's like telling her, like, we're all like, this affects all of us, and this is, and I'm like, it doesn't. It's gonna be okay. I promise, Ashley. Like,
like, listen, Ashley, let me just give you a word of advice, okay? Just calm your tit, not your party one. You can keep that one turned if you want to, but your other one, just calm down. First of all, we are so barely into any type of court process at this point. You're going to have a tough road to hoe, ma'am, if you're flipping out at this juncture. Okay. Just calm down. It's going to be fine.
I don't know how she's going to continue to cover the case if she's already.
I don't either, because here's the deal. If and I can't figure out what the investment is. It's like they don't want him to have Ann Taylor, and but here, this is what people, this part I don't understand. For me personally, the priority is this. I want to make sure that the right person is charged with the right crime. So let's say that's occurred here, okay? And we've moved forward. Brian Koberger is the guy. Ideally, you would want to have him to have the best representation. And why, you ask? Because this is a death penalty case. The appeals are automatic, meaning they just happen. They don't even have to be filed. They just occur. It's part of the process. So what you don't want is for there to be, I don't know, something that would cause a new trial, which would be incredibly expensive, like ineffective assistance of counsel. So, which does happen when there is a death penalty case, and each state, not just death penalties, but for capital crimes like this, each state has different requirements for court-appointed attorneys and what would qualify them to represent somebody in a case of this magnitude. And not every lawyer is qualified. And if you put a lawyer in who isn't actually qualified by the state, like Dan Stidham wasn't when he represented Jesse Miss Kelly,
yep,
automatic, that is grounds for a new trial, frankly. We don't want that. We'd rather just, let Ann Taylor represent him, okay? I don't know if they're thinking that Ann Taylor is so good that she's going to get him off.
I just feel like there's nothing to talk about. So this is like what it's become to get the attention of the viewers. That's my honest opinion.
It seems extra, and in a way that I don't enjoy.
I don't even like to watch it, except for I had to watch that because she was kind of
I
losing her
need to
crap.
see it. Mallory,
Mallory, do you know if it's already on? I
There-
can look and see if it's already actually that little clip, because you know how they air the whole episode and then they
yes,
put it all in the little clips, and I haven't watched any of
yes.
the clips, so she was actually like videoing so I could actually watch it live.
I'm very upset by this because I would have liked to see that. I could have been included in that video chat. Brittany knows how to get a hold of me, and so does Teresa, quite frankly. They both have me on Messenger. The Roots.
Sorry, Jen Lou. All right, Mallory's gonna check real quick. Okay, so let me go. Let's go.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's go back over here because you got to finish the coroner, so then we can talk
Okay,
about.
all right. Let me hear about how his scientific method for putting his hands underneath armpits. Okay.
If you allow me to say rigor.
That's fine.
I never said rigor. Was there rigor or rigor?
There was not.
Okay, so these folks had been dead less than a couple hours?
1 to 3 hours typically is what they say that rigor should start developing.
Okay, in terms of trying to estimate or get it a little bit closer than 1 to 3 hours, you took your hand, show me what you did, and you did it both for Paul and Maggie?
Yes.
How about, could you step down here, please?
Sure.
Bree, you were excluded too?
Both of them, right?
Yes, sir.
And did you move them?
No.
Okay, so.
They were covered with a sheet initially when I got there.
Right, so have you stand over
Okay.
here so the jury can see me. And you went up to Paul, and where did you push your hand?
This is
You know, which is
hilarious.
Paul's lane.
I'm not worried about
Right,
left or
okay.
right.
Basically what I did is I lifted his arm up just a little bit here and I stick my
So
hand
you
up.
did move him.
And that's one of the central areas of your body without using the only other choice is a rectal thermometer. And in most cases, when you have that many people around, I'm not going to pull somebody's pants down to utilize a rectal thermometer. So I stick my hands in their
He
armpit.
acted it
And like I
out.
say, I can get an
Yes.
idea. I mean, how warm they are.
Okay,
We
you did-
all appreciate that.
and
Have they put the guns away yet? Because the poot loves to grab a gun.
An estimation.
That's a guess.
It's a guess.
There's a whole
Could've been
fucking Elmer Fudd moment the other day.
What time this happened?
Do you carry a rectal thermometer to do specific measurements?
Well, usually what I'll do is I'll get it from fire rescue.
Specific measurements.
You didn't.
I'm sorry.
And that's the reason the death certificate says 9 o'clock.
Right. That was an estimation from what I found as far as the warmth of the body.
Okay, take it for it.
Can you push pause here for just a second? Because I just realized something.
Poot got his
Okay.
arm.
Poot, you got
be like, yes, your temperature is really good right now. Like
You're really warm, Poot. It's cold outside, but you're warm. Here's the thing. Estimated time of 9 o'clock. The estimated time of 9 o'clock doesn't help your client either. But I don't want to tell you your business, Poot. You've had a lot more education and you make a whole lot more an hour than I do. So I'll just be over here. It doesn't help. 9 o'clock doesn't help him. Because at 9:06 he was texting Maggie saying that he was going over to, but he'd called her a couple times before that.
No, and I was thinking that too. I was like, okay, he's really pushing for 9 o'clock, but obviously anybody knows that it's an estimate, and then they end up going into that anyway. So it's like the whole purpose, I think, was in the long run was that they have no idea what the time of death is. Was what he was trying to get at, and so I don't know when you stopped watching today, but they did the whole the defense asked for a directed verdict, basically saying like, hey, they have not presented a case, and we should. You should just, throw this whole thing out right now kind of thing. And one of the things that they were using as their reasoning was that they've created this quote unquote timeline that they believe, shows that he did this, but you can't prove somebody killed somebody based on this timeline. So I think they're just trying to poke holes in that whole thing. And plus he needed to have some witnesses today. And he doesn't have his witnesses because they're not going to be up there till Tuesday. So, okay. Thank you, Mallory.
Here's my problem with this. Okay. Time of death is unless you catch it on video, right? It's always an estimate.
Even if you catch it on video, you can't rely on technology. So it's still
Well, right. Like it's always an estimate. There's always a window, and it's usually about, depending on the circumstances, right? So in this situation, Alec arrived home or back at Moselle fairly quickly after the unalivings. They were probably, he called it 10:06. He left. I mean, it's literally an hour, right? His last text his last text to Maggie was 9:06, and he was calling the 911s at 10:06. So an hour. Okay. So, at any time, how did he not hear any gunshots? Quite frankly, Bree, because he was home. But he heard a car pull up. Get the fuck out of here, Alex. Stop. You're just throwing shit out there and you sound ridiculous. Just hush. Idiot. But it's always an estimate. No, it's very difficult. There are things that you can use to narrow down the time, but you're never going to be completely exact unless you're like at a hospital, and they pronounce it. That's very different because they're looking at their watches, so it's much easier then. Like they'll pronounce time of death. Like if they take somebody off life support, they'll call it.
Right.
Or if they bring somebody in and they can't be resuscitated, they'll call it. Those are accurate.
Is much different than actual time that they were shot too.
Correct.
Maybe not in this case, but because they sustained life altering injuries. But my point is that him going in there. So I'm going to go with what Thistle just said real quick, so I can kind of explain what my thought process is. Where did
okay.
Okay, so the defense is continually questioning why no one has done their job right while on scene. Well, about those questions, how about those questions now, defense? Well, I think that's kind of the point.
Right.
A lot of the things that the defense is doing, and I think that they also put him up there because they're trying to show that this is how time of death was determined to begin with, was 9 o'clock by a guy who checks armpits. So as much as we go like, defense, what the hell are you doing? There's obviously a method. These guys aren't making this kind of money and doing this for 30 years without knowing somewhat of what they're doing. So I just keep thinking, how much is done on purpose and how much is really them just not having a flipping clue? Because if they have this guy who goes and checks armpits and that's how they know what time they died, then what really was happening when this, when all first responders and SLED arrives, how are they actually doing anything with this crime scene?
Well, let me add another layer to this. There's a witness to everything that went on other than Alec that's sitting right next to him at the defense table. Griffin was there.
Griffin was there
at the crime scenes.
Does he show up that night, or I thought he showed up the next day? Is he one that shows up that night?
I know Danny does for sure.
Yep, because he's the one that's in the car during the first interview.
And I believe that Griffin.
There was like 7 or 8 of them, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was one.
Yeah, I do think he was there, and I think what? I think Blanca puts him in the. But she came the next day. Somebody puts him in the house. Maybe the female detective. Yeah, but when the clothes got taken, it's the Owens. Owens put Griffin there.
Oh.
When his clothes were taken, he was inside the house at Moselle when that happened. So Jim Griffin is a witness. So he's able. They don't even. I mean, he can say too what they were doing, which is messed up. If you think about it.
Yep.
How often does that happen? Probably not very often, I wouldn't think.
Night, Dominic. Crystal thinks that Griffin is in the Murdaugh stuff up to his armpits.
Well, I do too, but I think, and I've been thinking about this because why would, just based on this performance, I'm not all that impressed with Jim Griffin's lawyering skills, which I know is not an actual word. He's not good at the lawyering. But then I started thinking about it. how do you prevent somebody who is a witness from being a witness? You make them your attorney. He was also part of, he was who got Harpootlian was also, and so was Jim, defending Paul in the boat case. Or the accident, the criminal part of it. They were Paul's defense attorneys as well.
Right.
So if somebody was there and saw how Alec was that night and knows Alec, is a friend of Alec's, right? He would have been a character witness, except for the fact, or just even a witness to the crime scene, except for the fact that now he is representing Alec. And therefore, anything he saw and anything that they have talked about now becomes, say it with me, folks, attorney-client privilege.
Yep.
So nobody can come for, I mean, it's pretty smart if you think about it. I mean, devious is probably a better word for it, but
Well, it's also one of the reasons that he probably called, 7, 8 attorneys over there. Because
yes.
then he does all fall under this whole client,
Right, which is what they were trying to do with a conversation that happened in front of, oh God, they had another attorney from his firm come up there, and he was going to and he was testifying about something. Now I cannot remember what his name is. But there was this conversation that took place, and at first they thought it fell under attorney-client privilege, but it turns out it doesn't, because Buster was there. And when you have a third party who's not an attorney, i.e. Buster, then it's no longer attorney-client privilege. It was a conversation
they were kind of arguing about was like what room was everybody in at what time, to make it seem like who would have the privilege and who wouldn't.
Correct. But the fact of the matter is, if you're in a room full of attorneys, okay, but you have one person in the room who isn't an attorney, nor being represented by one of those attorneys in that room, i.e. Buster, then the conversation then is no longer considered attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, but then you're going to go with semantics on who was there when the conversation started, who was there when the conversation ended.
Yeah, but what do you think the law is?
I know, that's what I'm saying. They're not going to get into all that anyway. So
no, but they ended up letting the conversation come in.
So somebody said like they've taken temperatures under armpits for decades. The dude didn't use a thermometer under their armpit. He used his hand. So
right.
Yes,
I mean,
temperatures have been taken under armpits for decades. I totally get it. Like that's
yes.
I've done it. I had it done to me when I was little.
Correct. I was under the arm temperature taker as well. However, I used an instrument called a thermometer. It's kind of like your mom back in the day saying, let me feel your face, and saying, oh, you do feel warm, and then relying on an actual device that measures temperature with like a thermometer. That's kind of like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's the fact he used his hands. It's not that he took a temperature under the armpit. It's that he used his hands to do it.
Hi, Delana. Hollywood Jade says, additionally, this coroner was one of the first in the state to receive medical training. This said, I contend MEs should examine all death scenes prior to the release of the scene. I agree, except for I know in a lot of these like small towns and stuff, there isn't a medical examiner there. The bodies actually have to be sent somewhere else to have the autopsies done. In case of Idaho 4. So yeah, he just felt under the armpit. So I just want to make sure that was clear. It's like I'm not like saying not to take temperatures.
No, please, but please use a thermometer. If you want it to be accurate, use a thermometer. I mean, I suppose I could walk up to Teresa right now and stick my hands up underneath her armpits and determine whether she was warm or not, but I couldn't say if she was.
And you
Can you imagine? Not even a hi,
Like,
how
what
are
even
you?
doing here, Jen Lou?
What's going on? Let me just stick my hands up in your armpits but if I want to know if she has a fever, I would use what her temperature was. I would, I mean, I understand he's trying to see to gauge how warm or how cold. The colder the person is, obviously, the longer that they've been no longer living. It's just an odd, I'm done.
Determine time of death. All right, hold on. Let me see what else is in here, because I know that
All right.
that was the good stuff. I don't know what else is in here. It's not very long.
Your statement of 9 o'clock, it could have been 8 o'clock.
It could have been 8 o'clock.
Their death could have been the result of being shot at 8 o'clock.
I basically looked at 2.5 hours from the time that the call came in to the time I actually got there.
So they could have been shot at 10 o'clock.
Could have been.
Or any time in between.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Coroner. Please answer any questions.
By the state.
Mr. Harvey, you did not use rectal or any sort of thermometer on that night.
Have we even heard from this
And,
attorney before? Because his
Isn't
voice
it
does not
true
sound
that
familiar.
the best way to determine the actual time of death,
I
particularly
don't know who this is.
violent homicide,
This is
is
how
to take the temperature?
they don't give
Yes,
quick
sir.
snaps
Yes,
about this
And
corner.
the
There's
temperature
like,
decreases
guy in
roughly
the
at a
back
rate of
seat. You
1.5
go talk to
degrees
him.
every
We got
hour.
the B team
It's also affected
coming
by-
up asking questions now.
Yet, as I understand your testimony, correct me if I'm wrong, you really do not have a general idea as to when that incident actually occurred.
That's right. Yes, sir. That's true.
Because you didn't take the temperature, correct?
Right. And thermometers are not always accurate either. So, and that's one thing that we've learned over the years. I mean, we do have, and actually we now have the, I can't think of ultraviolet light, the light that shoots for the forehead. But what I've determined with that is that it's not necessarily accurate, is that I may shoot it at the forehead and it'll say 99 degrees, but if I shoot it in your ear, it might say 103.
That's right.
So, I mean, they're not necessarily accurate either.
That's correct. And it's also impacted by body weight. correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Age, elderly
Yes, sir.
versus youth,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And the weather.
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
If they were covered by a
Yes, sir.
sheet, that
Which they
would,
were at that time when I initially got
that
there.
could maintain something.
Yes, sir.
If they got wet through rain, that could
Mhm.
affect it.
That could, yeah, that could definitely.
And you had rain at that time, didn't you?
It had not rained hard at that point. Both
Not hard.
of their hairs were, heads of hair were dry.
Okay. And all those are factors which reflect what the actual time of death is.
Yes, sir.
Yet temperature is key.
Yes, sir.
And the only information you have is that the bodies were warm, correct?
Yes, sir.
Based upon
And
your-
Riker had not started,
And that usually begins to occur within 1 to 3 hours.
1 to 3
correct?
hours. So that's the time frame that I was looking at.
Okay. And you.
But
you
there's
walked
lots of
through
factors on that too. But
the time,
Yes,
is that
sir.
correct? And you were walking in the scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, what else do you want to?
Two questions.
Sure.
Do you remember when Sled showed up?
I do have probably the times for that.
He doesn't. He doesn't have that time.
I don't even know what time Sled showed up. So please enlighten me, sir. I do love to see the old school files, though. I love paperwork. Although sometimes when Harpootlian is preparing for his cross-examination, I'm like almost convinced he's back there doing origami when he's shuffling them papers like he does.
I did not see Sled on here, though.
Let me perhaps ask another question.
Okay.
Was Colleton County already there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were there Colleton County detectives there?
Yes, sir. They're,
Okay. Did any of them talk to you about time of death?
No.
Did any of them ask you what your examination revealed?
No.
Did any of them ask you how you came to your decision for time of death?
no, sir.
See, this is when he asked that question. That's why I think that he was actually trying to be like, see, nobody cared what was happening. Nobody cared.
Right.
That you
Nobody
attended
was
to
trying to
firearms
follow
units.
protocol. Nobody. Yeah. Which
Yeah.
I will say this, and I can't even believe I'm saying it, but I have to tell the truth. Poot in this situation is right, because even when okay, so when I was looking at Stephen Smith's case, right, the medical, the coroner, the chief coroner and the deputy coroner they were talking to the highway patrol and Hampton County Sheriff's Office. They were all like huddled up having a discussion about what they thought they were seeing. Do you know what I mean? So I do find it, but again, it's interesting to me because on the one hand, you have the defense saying that they just had this tunnel vision and they treated him like a suspect from jump. But
Yep.
the truth of the matter is, when you actually look at it, all of it, they didn't. In fact, I feel like some of the things that occurred because they were giving him preferential treatment, which is unfortunate. All investigation should be, we have standard operating procedure for a reason. And even though I am more in line with the rebel scum that are the Jedi, I do recognize the need for order and rules and following procedures and doing the same thing the same way every time for stuff like this. I even have an order of operations for making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's neither here nor there, but it works. So it is bothersome that they sort of threw out their protocols. And I'll say this. I'm gonna have to go back through everything because I kind of want to put some stuff together to see, just to show everybody the highlights of what the state presented. But although they have narrowed for me the potential for reasonable doubt at the close of their case, the one thing that they have not done yet, and they're not going to be able to do without the murder weapons, is actually put the murder weapons in Alec Murdaugh's hands.
Well, I think that's why they keep pushing that they're family guns. And then it worked to their benefit that, like the roadside shooting, that he actually gave Eddie the gun.
I agreed. And I think also the fact that the shell casings, they did find the fresher ones, not the older ones that had Paul's DNA on them, that does tend to make me believe the state's theory that they were family guns. I mean,
they don't have those guns, so I agree.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much. I know everybody says like that they didn't do all of these things that they should have done because it was the Murdaugh family. But I don't know how much of that is true. Because I would be very curious to see how well they do other crime scenes.
Well, we definitely would have to the only scientific way to do it would be to find another case similar to this with two decedents and in the same county.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way to know, because then the likelihood that the same officers from SLED that worked this case worked that case and see what their methods are. I'm talking about the way that Alec was treated. The fact that they continued to meet with him in a police car. I understand getting the initial statement, but usually they want you down at the police station the next day to make a formal statement. The fact that they didn't close Moselle down completely and treat the entire property as a crime scene, that was a huge mistake. Huge. And what I find interesting about Alec's behavior, and I've been thinking about this for a few days, is him being on the phone the entire time. They're trying to talk to you, they're trying to understand what happened here, and you are too busy calling your whole contact list. I understand maybe calling one or two people, and once they get there, letting them be the phone tree people, let them handle it. But he could, it's just, I don't know. It bothered me and it kind of annoyed me because I felt like he wasn't as interested in what was going on as he should have been. You're the last person, essentially, if you're not the killer, you're the last person who saw them alive, right? Other than the killer. And you're the person who knows these two people best. So your whole focus should be doing anything and everything you can to help law enforcement track these people down. And the fact that, he, without straight out the gate, is already referencing the boat accident. Okay. Well, but doesn't have concern for Buster, which I always found odd, because without that ID, Paul can't purchase alcohol, which was the catalyst, nor can he go in that bar and get drinks either. It was that ID, so why not, if they were punishing the family, why wasn't Alec at all concerned for Buster? He just left Buster twisting in the wind. You know what I mean?
Was it because Buster wasn't around anymore? No.
It's not like Buster was states away. He was like maybe an hour drive, if that, 30, 45 minutes, something like that. He wasn't like that far away. And he wasn't even, Buster was in the same place he was when the boat accident happened, or with his girlfriend.
Yeah. Why did he call Buster?
Yeah, all the shirts. He didn't.
Yeah,
And the other thing, and LFT has pointed this out repeatedly, and she's spot on with this. He calls Maggie repeatedly that night, but never once does he call Paul.
Well, I said that the other day on my live, and then we found out today that he did call Paul.
When? At what time? I missed that.
Let me pull it up.
Oh, I mean, if I believe you, I'm just curious.
He calls him at 9:46:35.
Interesting. Just the one time.
That's what I said. I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like, if I'm missing a call, like if I can't get a hold of my mom, I call my dad. If I can't get a hold of my dad, I call my mom. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. So, that's what happened with my mom.
He does call Paul, but not until 9:46.
Interesting. That's interesting. Which is, I don't understand why we know that today and didn't know that before.
This is what I was saying. Like, some of the information is different. Like, some of the times are different, and yeah, some of it's only by a couple seconds here and there, but it is what it is. And then some of the information is different. There's steps that were counted on this report that we didn't know about before, and there's steps that we knew about before that are not accounted for on this report. So I find that interesting. The other thing they did bring up today when they were talking about the timeline, which I was ecstatic that they brought up, was the fact that there was only less than 20 seconds between him arriving there and him calling 911 when he says he went and checked the bodies, checked for pulses, picked up Paul's phone, dropped Paul's phone.
See, but this is interesting to me because I would like to know. I thought about this the other day, and then I forgot about it last night, and now I remember it because what you just said. I would like to know how long of a drive it is, and I don't imagine it's very long, but I need to know, between the actual house and where the kennels were. And the reason I ask that is because I do remember from the first interview in the police car, the night of the June 7th. He said that he went to the house first and then went to the kennels. So for there to only be 20 seconds between his arrival and the calling makes me think that he was near the property, called 911 as he's pulling up to the kennels, and there was no going to the house. That sort of makes more sense than going to the. How do you know that nobody is in the house if you don't get out of your car and go look?
Well, so it looks like he did. This was kind of what we were talking about the other day. It's like at 10 o'clock, the vehicle goes into park. And then at 10:01, it's taken out of park. And then at 10:01, it's back in park. 10:01, it's back out of park. And this is when we were talking about the gate. And LFT was like, no, there was no gate.
There's no gate. She's right.
So then I was like, okay, so that makes that even more interesting. But they did bring up another point today on the whole park, not park, is that it is out of park. So it's not necessarily in drive. That's the first thing. It's just not in park is all it is. So the report technically says park, true or false. So it's either in park or not. Does that make sense? So my thought was, even if it was a gate or not a gate, and then he takes the car out of park at 10:04, or I mean, oh, okay, so he's in park. He calls Maggie at 10:03:58. So he's at the house, and he calls Maggie, no answer. And then 10:04:49, he takes the vehicle out of park. So here's your time that it would take to drive down there. 10:04:49 to 10:05:55, the vehicle is now in park. But these are not accurate. And this was part of what I was looking at today, and I wanted to talk tonight about this timeline, because let me go up here and show you one that doesn't make any sense, so that you guys can see why I have such an issue. So at 9:06:47, they say that he's walking. He starts walking, and we know that those aren't necessarily accurate. So he's walking, the vehicle starts, vehicle's taken out of park, and he's driving. So he's leaving the house to go to Amida.
Right. Okay.
So now at 9:22:39, he's walking again. But at 9:22:45, the vehicle's in park. So he's walking before he gets out of the vehicle. Once again, I know that the steps aren't accurate, so I get it. But this is what causes me confusion. So the vehicle's in park. Here he's walking, or he stops walking. 9:35, he starts walking. 9:42, his phone connects to the Suburban. It's taken out of park. They have where he leaves Almeda at 9:43:18. Okay.
Okay.
9:43:18. That's the time on their report that he leaves.
Okay.
9:43:59, cars in park. Well, the other guy testified that from the time that he leaves his parents' house, there's no stops, none. So how does he leave at 9:43:18 and parks the car at 9:43:59 and doesn't take the car out of park until 9:44:54? If he doesn't stop. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm trying to work it out too.
So something's not adding up. Something doesn't make sense. So, and then they bring up that that the guy who put the timeline together doesn't look at any of the other data that the car does, and how many times that the car goes into in and out of park before, except that he stopped in the driveway on the way out. Yeah, but that was on the way out of his house. He stops in the driveway on the way out of his house. So they say that that's what changed it, right, Jenny? Am I saying that correctly? They said that he waited at the train tracks near his parents' house. Yeah, but he doesn't. So he puts his car into park.
I mean, I'll say this. So when I used to live in Texas, when I lived when I lived in Arlington, there is a train track that runs between Arlington and Grand Prairie. Okay. And if you get the nighttime one, I mean, there's a train there. I mean, it's a train track. It's there all the time. But there is a train that comes at sometime I think between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. And if you get stuck there when it's making its nighttime train, it takes forever because the train is stopped and then it backs up, and it's like they're switching tracks or something. So it takes I don't know, you're there for 30 or 45 minutes. And sometimes people do put their vehicles in park, but that is the only reason I could see why you would put your car in park at a train track. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. That's why I was like, wait a minute. You have him walking around, but then you've got his car going into park and out of park. And then you have him leaving, but then you say that he's in park and out of park. So that was confusing to me. So anyway, so back to
I'm confused about the park and out of park. I really am wondering if OnStar, we should call them and ask them.
Well, I'm hoping that we can actually see some of these reports when this is all said and done, and they'll actually release them, because I'm very curious on how in the world they're saying that this happens all the time with this car. So then that totally changes what could be happening here. If this is something that is going on with the car, does it look like it's being taken out of park and it's not really? I don't know. That's why I said it was very confusing.
Do they think that is there something in the sensors or whatever that when you have your foot on the brake for a specific amount of time, it registers as the vehicle is in park? That's what I want to know. Like, I need to understand this. And even if we were to get the reports, we're not going to understand them because the reports are the reports. What we need to find out, who we need to call is OnStar and have OnStar explain to us how this
We're
can
watching
be.
this trial and we need some answers. So can you help us?
Correct. Can you? Yes.
Okay, so then my second question was if he puts the vehicle in park at 10:01:43 and he's actually down at the kennels, it wouldn't make sense for him to call Maggie because he's seeing her, right? He's not calling her. So this could not be when he's down at the kennels. This has to be when he's at the house. So then it is a couple of minutes before he goes back to the car and then gets there at 10:05:55 if the vehicle's in park, right? And then he calls 19 seconds later. It's like 19 point something seconds later. So how does he have enough time to do all of that? And they brought that up in court today. I was like, thank gosh. My car wakes if I'm near it with a key fob. The door handle, side mirrors, and interior lights come on. So they talked about that, but they said that that's like the system reports it like this one, vehicle system boots up. And that could be any of those things. It could be unlocking the car. It could be opening the door. It could be any of those. So they talk about when the system just boots up, it's nothing's actually happening with the car. So the whole in and out of park is supposedly just in and out of park.
Yeah, but here's the thing this is the other thing about that. I don't think that explains it in this situation, only because what is it that Alex said? And Dale Davis, it was Alec, but Dale Davis is the one that really backed this up. He said they never locked their cars. Yep. Sometimes they even left their keys in the vehicle. Yep. Which if they were leaving their keys in their vehicles, then some of this data you cannot rely on. You can only rely on the data when he's actually like moving, the vehicle's actually being driven.
Oh yeah, because you don't know who's opening the door.
Correct.
So Mama Bear asked, could he be hiding the guns in his mom's yard? Well, that was another thing that I was trying to figure out with the timeline is like, they say that he stashes the guns at his parents, right?
Right.
So he gets there at 9:22:45. He doesn't call his mom until 9:24:13. So less than.
I thought he called. And where's the call to Shelly? Because Shelly says that she got a call.
House phone, I think it is.
Okay. I forget that they probably have a landline because, yeah, they're a different generation. My bad. Okay.
So that's why I think that's probably just a landline. But so he had a little over a minute, a minute and 15, 30, 28 seconds, a minute, 28 seconds where he could have stashed something. And if you look at the maps from what they were doing today, he does drive around that perimeter, but he doesn't park the car. So does he throw them out like he throws the phone? I don't know. So he doesn't have a lot of time there. We can't obviously say exactly when he leaves the house, but 20 minutes later is what Shelly says, right? So it's almost exactly, 9:24 is when he calls and says, I'm here, let me in. And then at 9:43, the car is taken out of park.
I mean, I have to say that we can't, this is disappointing, this data from the car, because it doesn't seem like it is 100% reliable. And I think the reason that must be, the only reason I can think of is because it's really not intended to be read by like law enforcement. I don't think I don't think that it's really for like GMC, Chevy, all the places. It's for them. It's for their diagnostics.
Yeah, to see how their cars are working.
Exactly. So they need to. This is problematic for a couple of reasons, because obviously it's not accurate in the way that cell phones are accurate. I mean, it's interesting to me though that with Maggie's cell phone, that there are orientations on her phone that are recorded seconds before and sometimes during missed calls from Alec. That to me is interesting because an orientation occurs because the phone is being moved. Now, is it a human? If it's a human moving it, right? If that's the state's or the prosecution's or the defense's theory, then how come she's not answering the call? It's obviously, you know what I mean? Something is not, I find that to be interesting, that he's calling her phone and her phone is moving, but she's not answering it.
Right.
You know?
Her phone is moving like somebody's looking at the phone. But that's the other thing they try to say is like that he tosses the phone on the way there because he slows down to about 40 miles per hour at about the spot where the phone is found. So then I get very confused on what is actually happening. How does this display keep turning on and off while he's at his mom's house? And I'm obviously like, I'll be like the timeline guy. Like I'm not a phone expert. I don't know, but it's very odd to me. Why does the phone keep acting, doing things when it's laying out in the bush? Hi, Vincent's missing here. Maybe the special agent who. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. So the GM goes, during the trial says, oh, by the way, we do have access to all this information that you guys wanted like 2 years ago, but we didn't give it to you. But now we have it and we're willing to give it to you. And the other guy who was the original guy who was working on the car, he went and got another 2021 Subaru or Suburban and was driving it around, and they had to they logged all the movement, and they logged when they put it in park, and they logged when they did, different things with the car. Mm-hmm. For a year. They worked on this data to be able to compare it to what they were able to retrieve from Alec's Suburban.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, here comes GM, last week. Oh, by the way, we have all this information. Like, how pissed off was that guy who literally put blood, sweat, and tears into all the minute details of every time?
I know. I would have been pissed. I would have been pissed. It'd be like if you said to me, Jen, I need you to work on all the cell phone data, put it all together in a cohesive way. And then I do it and I'm about to present it. And you said, oh, I already had this. I forgot. I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed.
That's what you did for so long.
Yes, I'd be pissed. Livid.
Okay, so Karen thinks he placed Maggie's phone in the car before he went to the house. So as he gets up here and something happens with the car at 9:03:44, you think he puts Maggie's phone in the car. And then he goes in and gets his phone. But he was already walking, so he already had his phone at 9:02:18.
This is what else is confusing to me about the chunking of the phone. Now I forgot what I was going to say because I looked at chat like an idiot. I always do that, and then I'm like, I can't. Oh, the display. I'm curious if phone missing, because okay, if I'm not touching my phone and my phone is locked, anytime, what Jenny is saying right now, a notification. So anytime I get notified from YouTube or from Facebook or from an email or whatever, my display comes on. So I'm thinking I'm thinking that the display coming on and off has to be her getting notified.
She's getting a missed call or she's getting whatever.
Right. So the first time Alec calls her and the call gets missed, right? So the screen will light up because the call is coming in. If you don't answer that call, the screen will unlight, and then you'll get it'll light up once more to let you know that you missed a call.
Oh, Jenny, you think he had the phone in the car at 8:55? So you think that he was? This is when he puts the phone in the car, but the car doesn't have any door openings or anything. So I guess we go with the car doesn't actually. It's not going to report everything that happens. I don't know.
Well, if you don't, okay, let's think about this. Why would it? Okay, the only time I would think that I don't know this. This is a question.
Okay.
If you have driven your vehicle, for example, that day, like Alec did, home to Moselle from work. You put it in park. They leave the keys and shit in the vehicle, and he opens the door, opens the door to get out, closes it, and goes into the house. If he doesn't use the keyless entry again, right, until he actually is about to drive the vehicle, will the vehicle still register doors being opened and closed? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I'm thinking, I don't know.
This is the problem that we, yes, Vincent's missing ear. Unlight means turn off. Thank you.
That's how you speak Jen Liu.
That's how you speak Jen Liu. That's why there's words like 50, 1100 and 11 billion and lawyering and that kind of thing. Yes, turn off. The display turns off. Unlight. Jeez. You see what happens when I go down these rabbit holes?
I love it though. So to go back to the point that you were making about like if her phone is getting a call or getting a message or whatever, then the phone comes on and goes back off. So
right.
It does happen somewhat like that. And this is the other thing is because this dude did not put all the information in this timeline. And his timeline really flipping reminds me of the Watts timeline, and it really bothered me. I'm just going to put that out there. But
I've had a feeling this was going to be one of those, and I can't. But I don't care. I'm all in now, so it's too fucking late.
It is what it is. We're stuck here now,
right?
And I gotta see it all the way through. But the timeline it reminds me of that because they don't put all the information in this timeline, and they're like, well, this is what the experts testified to, and I'm like, dude, I made my timeline off of what the experts testified to, and you don't have the shit that I have, so don't say that. Like that's not true. So some of it, sometimes it is. So Maggie's phone display turns on, and then there is like something that happens with Maggie's phone, and sometimes like this one, there's not. So nothing is happening with Maggie's phone, like no, according to what they've tell us. Now, is there something else happening? Who knows? Because maybe there was something happening and nobody bothered to tell us about it.
Right. Like maybe they only put, I thought about this. Maybe they're not putting the other side notifications that your phone will get, right? Maybe they were asked to compile notifications from phone calls, texts, or like DMs. Okay.
Right.
Not like, hey, by the way, all of your lives are full on Matchington Mansion. Or, hey, do you know how many times I get notified from 7-Eleven delivery for nothing? I mean, it's nothing earth shattering. It's not even anything that I would buy. As I've never even ordered it before, but I will get notifications all the time from the 7-Eleven app. I also get a lot of notifications from snacks.com. No idea why. I've never signed up for snacks.com. Although I enjoy snacks, and snacks.com sounds like something that'd be right up my alley. I get notification. Me too. I get notifications from Candy Crush telling me to come back and play. I'm not going to Candy Crush. It's a trap, and I see your game, and I'm not playing it.
I play it. You used to play it.
I do. I still play it. It's on my phone. I just haven't played it in a minute because I got frustrated. But yeah, so see, that's my thing. Is I think maybe what we're not seeing is the notifications from apps that don't mean anything, that aren't pertinent to the case, like your Matchington Mansion that your lives have been refilled, or your Candy Crush that somebody sent you a life. Like, they're not putting those notifications on there, but all of those notifications will cause your phone to your display to come on. But that's not an unlock, which is different. I would feel like this was more compelling if it were unlocked.
Hi, everybody that's popping in.
Also, I get Heyday notifications just for full transparency.
What the heck is a Heyday notification?
Heyday? You don't know how
I don't know
to, it's
what
like
that is.
Farmville, but funner.
I don't know what that one is.
You don't know what Farmville is? Come on, that's like one of the first games you could play on Facebook.
That was like Farmville. That was Farmville.
Yeah, but now they got, I mean, Farmville still exists, but then Heyday made one.
Every time I play a game on my phone, my kids are always like, "Are you farming?" Okay.
My kids can always tell when I'm playing Matchington because I make noises and I'm annoyed. And I yell out things like that, fucking Tiffany.
Fucking Tiffany. She's playing Heyday right now.
I'm not playing Heyday right now.
I'm going to have to look up this Heyday because I played
Yeah,
Farmville.
it's fun. You would like it.
We'll see.
You can come be in my neighborhood.
I play a zoo game. That's what I like. I have a zoo.
Ooh, you have a zoo?
That's my calming place is my zoo. On
See,
my phone.
Heyday is the one I play to chill out.
All right, I'll look at it. Okay, so what else do we need to talk about with this? Because I know that Mallory sent me the link for the Idaho 4. If you guys want to look at that Anfield thing. If you guys want to keep talking about Murdaugh, we can do that though too.
I'll do whatever because either way.
Breaking news notifications, weather notifications. Yeah, so I mean, it could be any of those things, and they're just not on the timeline. I get it now that when you put it that way. I'm like, yeah, my phone does get a shit ton of notifications for all kinds of crazy stuff that I doubt they would put on. You know, they're like notification from Heyday, notification from Heyday, notification from Heyday. They wouldn't.
Yeah. Can you imagine if, God forbid, something ever happened to me and they have to, and Cellbrite gets a hold of my
electronics.
I don't want
to my phone. I hope somebody chucks it somewhere that they can't ever find it. It's so bad.
You know what? I'm actually kind of proud of the things that I have looked up on my phone. So show it all, Cellbrite. Mention all of it. Mention every time that I've been watching a show and I can't remember what the actor's name is, so I hit the Googles. Go ahead, show all that shit. I do it. Sure do.
So there's one of the apps, one of the streaming apps, we just learned that if you when you hit the pause button, it actually tells you all about the person. And we were like, this is amazing.
Prime does it.
Yeah, it's Prime. Yeah. Hi, Red Eye.
Prime does it.
Okay, so I want to do the public information officer first.
Okay.
Before we go to talk crap about the Idaho 4 case.
Okie dokie. Whatever you want.
She's only up here for a hot minute too, so
okay.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Further. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Be seated. Put your full name and record. Spell your last name. Try speaking that match.
I'm Shalane Tyndall, SHALANETINDAL.
Talked on the phone a couple times?
Yes, sir.
But we've never met, have we?
No, sir.
Okay. I appreciate you being willing to come here on such short notice today. I know you've got other things to do. So where do you work?
I work at the Colleton Sheriff's Office as public information part-time. And then for my full-time position, I work for the nonprofit blood organization, The Blood Connection, as the divisional logistics coordinator and calendar specialist.
Okay. My glasses, I'm sorry. So back
Put your glasses on, Poot, so we all know you mean business.
What was your job? What was your job back then? With the
I was solely the public information officer at the sheriff's office at that time.
Colleton County Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to show you a document and see if you can identify this. I think the easiest way to do that is Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Apologize, Your Honor. I've just gotten my two documents jumbled. Here we go.
I told you about that origami. You're supposed to keep those projects back at your desk, Poot. Come on now.
He always loses his place.
Bless his heart.
Alex is like really involved in this testimony, though.
I'm aware of the Post and Courier publishing things of this nature, yes, but not strictly this document in
Okay, if you
question.
go to the second page. Now, does this, if you look halfway down the page, does that, there is a quote in here from you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is it accurate?
This quote was actually coordinated between SLED and us at the time. We received multiple inquiries from the media, and per the sheriff's standard protocol, anytime SLED is in charge of a case or investigation, it's standard procedure to reach out to them and coordinate something with them.
Okay, so the quote from you, this is on the morning, this is the Post and Courier on the morning of June 8th. And the quote contained by you in here, we'll get how that was put together, but is it accurate?
The quote wasn't by me, it was a joint information from SLED and the sheriff's office.
Sheriff spokeswoman Shalene Lowe for further questions. So, but you were part of the release of this statement.
Yes, it was a joint. Mhm.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to offer this evidence.
Nobody wants to claim this statement.
She still doesn't want to. She's like, no. This was
No,
joint.
it was
I did
joint.
not do this by myself. But remember,
yeah.
all the SLED agents at the beginning were like, nope, we didn't do that. Nope, we didn't do that. Nope, I never
Nope.
saw it.
Exactly. They're all not. Nobody wants to claim this shit.
No, I have no objection. We have no objection to the quote, but the article, I hadn't read the article. We just object to the rest of the article, and I think he's agreed with
I
that.
just want these two paragraphs.
I think those are Tic Tacs, but you know, you never know what's in a
Right.
Tic Tac bottle.
Right.
Hi, Greg.
No objection to what?
Her quote that she gave and not the rest of the article, we're in agreement on that, if Your Honor is.
Is that what you're offering?
Yes, I'm going to have her publish 2 paragraphs from this
They're
story.
just like, come on,
Yes,
get
sir.
your shit together.
Right.
This is a story in the Post and Courier on the morning of June 8th, which would be the morning after the murders. So what I'd ask you to do is, it's in quotes, would you read this paragraph and this paragraph, publish it to the jury? This paragraph at this time, and then a paragraph right after that, okay? Take it. And would you slow down just a little bit for me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, there is no danger to the public. The sheriff's office said, if information is received that dictates otherwise, we will immediately notify the public. Sheriff spokeswoman Shalene Lowe referred questions regarding the incident to SLED and the Colleton County Coroner's Office. A request for 911 audio recordings was denied due to the ongoing investigation.
What? I'm sorry, she went further than I asked. That's okay. All right, now, so that statement was the public has nothing to worry about, right?
That's what it states, yes, sir.
Okay, now, let me ask
Poot,
you.
she's not going to be able to tell you why. She's just the information officer. She only relays the information. She don't make the information. So don't be getting all excited.
Can you clarify exactly what you're asking?
Okay, so
Yeah.
this statement, at this time, there's no danger to the public, the sheriff's office said. You would be the spokesperson for the sheriff's office.
Correct, but this was a joint statement released in coordination with SLED's PIO and us while we were waiting on an updated information to do an actual letterhead release.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is on that, were you, who, did you?
What are you
release-
trying to
were you the
say?
one making this release, or was SLED making, I mean, when I say, I'm talking about physically, how did the Post and Courier get this quote?
SLED and I, PIO at the time, coordinated multiple times through numerous phone calls. There's also emails. This was discussed over the phone due to them being the active agency on the case. But it did come from my email, but it was coordinated with SLED's PIO at the time.
Okay, so SLED signed off on this statement.
From what I understand from speaking with their PIO at the time.
I mean, you consulted with their, now PIO stands for?
Public information.
Public
officer.
information officer. Oh, sorry, you're not questioning me, Poop. My bad.
SLED has a public information
Don't
officer
don't
named
get in the armpit.
At the time, I believe it was
No.
Tommy Crosby. Y'all talked and emailed
on numerous occasions from the time of the incident on further.
and decided this was the statement that should be made.
When I coordinated with SLED's PIO, this is what was mentioned and this is what we had published.
Okay, and what?
Trista, so the whole point of this is that the day after, not even the day after, like Phoebe said, it was like 12 hours after the bodies were found, the SLED and the Sheriff's Department was putting out that there was no risk to the public. There was nothing to be afraid of, basically. So the defense's point is they were targeting Alec from the get-go. Otherwise, how did they know there wasn't a threat out there? There was somebody who just came and killed 2 people. Like, how is there not a threat? There has to be a threat.
Well, conversely, it could, the opposite argument could be made that they believed Alec when he said that these crimes were related to the boat crash, and that is why they didn't feel that there was a threat to the public, because the public wasn't involved in the boat crash. So that could be the other side of
had to do with the boat crash. That's not going to have the boat crash, because that's not going to bode well either. Then,
I mean, what I'm saying is, an argument can be made either way. Either initially they believed Alec. Look, we're talking about the day after. If this was a press release that was made right before the arrest, that would be, very different. I wouldn't make this argument. But the day after, the argument, he's saying, the defense is saying, Alec was their only suspect ever. He got in that damn circle, did the hokey pokey, and never got out.
Yep.
My argument is, you could say you could also say that in the initial hours of the investigation, they took Alec at his word that this must have had something to do with the boat crash, and that's why they didn't feel that the general public was at risk.
See, this is where I go
until they developed more of a suspect, or more information, not more of a suspect, until more information was learned. Then they can change their minds. That's all I'm saying. It can be argued either way.
I see what you're saying, but
no buts. That's it. You see what I'm saying? The end. Case closed.
But if they weren't looking at him as a suspect, why did they do GSR? Why did they take his clothes that he was wearing? Why did they do any of those things if he wasn't a suspect? So like they said, like Owen even said, was that that he was put in the circle because he's the closest person to him and he's the one that found him. That means that he's in the circle immediately. So that means he was in the circle that night.
Everybody was in the circle technically that night, but
they weren't. That's what they're trying to prove, is because they're saying that not everybody was in the circle that night, because by 12 hours later, they're telling the public that everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
They did the same thing in Idaho.
I know, and I think that was a total disaster too.
I feel like sometimes they say these things because they're trying not to get for the public not to be riled up. They're trying to prevent the public from losing their whole ass minds, which would be a much better thing for them to say. Look, sometimes we just say shit because sometimes we have people that lose their whole ass minds, and we're trying to prevent a panic.
Well, the problem is it's lies. And so then this is where the whole distrust for law enforcement comes in.
I know. It's problematic. It shouldn't happen.
For the benefit of the investigation, but you're not lying for the benefit of the investigation if you're telling the public that there isn't a threat when you don't know, and you're trying to tell this jury that everybody's in the circle. Everybody's in the circle 12 hours later, what happened? Where did all these people in the circle go? How
Yeah.
are you saying now
Now,
the only
I
person
will
who
say
left the
this.
circle from 12 hours later is now Alec.
I will say this. When
Yep.
they gave Alec the second interview in the vehicle, what? Oh, fuck. I was totally forgot where I was going with that. Never mind. It'll come back to me.
Sorry.
It's all right. It'll come back.
But
What did he
my
say?
point, Jenny, is they're saying it was targeted, but we don't know that it was targeted at the time it happens. He's saying that it's targeted, so now you have to believe what he's saying, and now you're going back to the whole that it's Alec Murdaugh, and you know he doesn't have anything to do with this, and I don't think that he's the only suspect. But yet I'm going to take his GSR, I'm going to take his clothes, I'm going to do these things like he is a suspect because he's in the circle. But then the other half of the shit that I would do, but for the people that are in the circle, I'm not going to do because he's Alec Murdaugh. Like you can't. My point is you can't have both, and I think that's what the defense is trying to prove. Is you don't get to have it both ways. That's just my opinion.
No, you don't get to have it both ways, but taking the GSR, etc., it could also be argued that they did it as a means to rule him out, because you have to do that. You have to rule the person who found the bodies out before then you can go start looking at, because they know when they get on a crime scene like this, they know that eventually there's going to be a trial. And if they don't check Alec immediately, right, then that can be problematic for the person who ends up on trial. Unfortunately, in Alec's case, it ended up being him on trial.
Because they couldn't get him out of the circle.
Because he just wouldn't leave that dadgum circle. He said something, though, that I wanted to bring up, and now I just freaking can't remember it.
All right, well, yell at me if you do, and I'll pause it.
What you're saying is there's no danger to the public. If information is received that dictates otherwise, we'll immediately notify the public. Was there a subsequent release given?
After the statement that we put out?
Right.
Yes, there was a joint letterhead release. The initial, what the Post and Courier published was an actual statement. Later on, we actually published a release while we're waiting on additional information.
And that subsequent statement didn't indicate there was any danger to the public. It didn't change this position, did it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Did SWED and the Sheriff's Department change its position and put out a statement saying, whoa, now, there's something to worry about? Or did they just not mention this again?
When we did the
I think that's exactly how it should be put out.
It's also in the body that was sent over to SLED for their approval. Tommy Crosby had taken a moment to look at the release and later, I guess, decided that we took that out of the release and that it was what was published, excuse me.
So, but they never came back and said, there's something to worry about. They just took this language out.
Yes.
Okay. And SWED signed off on that.
We worked on this together, yes.
Okay, but it wouldn't have gone out if SWED hadn't said,
yes, sir.
Let it out, correct? I mean, you get information and then you shape it into a release here or subsequently that is digestible. Maybe that's the best way to put it. You're the wordsmith. You're the one that tries to make it make sense.
Yes, sir. Public information. We're not privy to investigations. We just receive details. And then we take those and turn them into paragraphs so the paper anywhere in the media can print for layman's terms to be better understood by the public.
And I want to make sure I understand this. Any subsequent release never changed. Actually, I think you said the subsequent release said the same thing. At this time, there's no danger to the public. That didn't change, correct?
In the updated release that was sent out on letterhead, yes, that was removed.
That was removed.
Yes, sir.
But did they say there is a danger to the public? They never said that, did they?
No, sir.
Beg the court's indulgence for just a moment.
Poot, come on, man. How many more moments you need? You've been having moments. You're giving me a moment of irritation. Come on.
Other question. In this story, the last name was Lowe.
Yes, sir. I got married since then. I guess somebody decided to like me. Well, thank you.
Please answer any questions.
Gross. Look at Alex smile. Ugh.
He does have a really creepy smile.
Yeah, I can't.
Hi, Maz.
Shit, I really wish I could have. I had a very salient point to make, and now it's gone completely out of my whole brain.
You're gonna remember it like
I will. Tomorrow when I'm in the shower, I'm going to remember it, and I'm going to text you, Teresa.
Okay.
I'm happily married. I am not. I just couldn't hear. What was the date of the second release that Mr. Harpoon? I honestly don't know.
Am I talking into you?
Yes, sir.
The date of the second is the same date.
I apologize, Your Honor.
The date of the second.
The initial letterhead release was released on the same date a few hours after the initial statement.
Hold on, Mallory. Why don't you rewind it?
It was the same
So you
exact.
can hear it in full.
Okay.
Turn them into
Yeah, because I
paragraphs.
talked over. Oh, I would argue also that an attorney is a wordsmith, especially if you're a trial attorney, Mr.
hell yeah.
Harpootlian. Don't diminish what you do, sir. Maybe diminish what Griffin does, but not you.
One other question. In this story, your last name is Lowe.
Yes, sir. I got married since then. I guess somebody decided to like me. Well, thank you.
Please answer any questions.
I missed the last question.
Yeah, you sure trying to court me? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm happily married. I am not.
I'm just kidding.
I just couldn't hear. What was the date of the second release that Mr. Harpoon? I honestly don't know.
Am I talking into you?
Yes, sir.
The date of the second is the same date.
I apologize, Your Honor.
The date of the second.
The initial letterhead release was released on the same date a few hours after the initial statement.
So the one he was asking about second was the same exact statement, word for word, that was released earlier.
No, the second, what we initially put out at around, I think before 10 o'clock in the morning, we had received inquiries from Fitz News, News 4, and I believe the Post and Courier. So the initial statement that I coordinated with SLED was what he was referring to afterwards, an updated letterhead release. As additional information became available to us, was coordinated with SLED that redacted that information.
And I'm just going to show you, for this, is this the document you're talking about here? And it's dated June 21st. Is that what you're talking about or not?
No, that is not.
If Fit News is the one that
That's all I have.
Mandy
Thank
Thank you, sir. I
Hatton,
appreciate you.
the one that
Yes.
has the Murdaugh podcast,
Anything further?
Yes.
Mr. Magazine.
Did you think that Mr. Metters was proposing to you a moment ago?
I don't know. I'm just picking.
No further questions. Thank you.
You may step down.
I like her.
How
She's the
awkward.
kind of witness I would be.
She
Cracking
really is,
jokes.
actually.
Do what?
I said she really is like the kind of witness you would be.
Yeah, cracking jokes and you know, I mean, you got to have a little levity. Everybody's over there so serious, but not you, Alec Murdaugh. I'm not making jokes for you.
He does have a kind of his smile is kind of creepy.
Lecherous. He looks like a lecherous old man.
I don't
But-
know. It's definitely different than the ones that like when you see him in the photos like beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have the same. I don't know. He just doesn't look the same anymore. The judge is not amused. No.
No,
I know.
he's not.
No, he's just like, yeah, you guys think this is a flipping joke? You're wasting my time.
You know, he wants to be stop fucking around. Hey, you know what I noticed the other day about Buster? Because they were showing him because court ended earlier, and he was standing talking to people, and his smile, he has nice teeth, first of all, very straight, but it looks like he still is wearing his retainer or something. Like behind his, like maybe he has a permanent retainer. When you have braces, you can't close your top teeth over your bottom teeth the way that they're supposed to after you get your braces off, because obviously the braces are, to prevent that from happening. But he smiles like he's still wearing his braces. Like he holds his mouth the way that you would if you're still holding your wearing your braces.
You think he has his retainer on?
I think I don't know, maybe he has a permanent one. I don't know. It was just bothersome to me. It's just something I noticed. When he smiles and he's not talking, but his mouth is a little bit open and his bottom jaw is a little bit forward. I don't know why I noticed that, and I don't know why I stared at it for so long, and now I kind of feel like a psycho hose beast even repeating it. But just something I noticed.
Well, you also watch 80s commercials just for funsies, so.
Sometimes you have to. I need to, sometimes I just gotta fucking clear out the compartments, man. I can't have, it's too much. And I need to notice things.
He does kind of look like Voldemort, although he just has a weird, it was like his, talk about Alec again, his smile was just kind of weird, like it was long and it just stayed for too long. I don't know. Buster looks just like his dad.
Let me say this.
Creepy way.
You know who his smile reminds me of? Not everybody is going to get this, but if you ever watched Vanderpump Rules, season 3, after Tom Schwartz, no, the other Tom, and what's her name, break up, and she's they're at Shayna's bachelorette party in Mexico, and they're all sitting around the table, and the girl that's the ex has to watch Tom and the new girl be together, right? So Kristen, so she's like laughing as if she's included in a joke that she's actually not included in. And that's what Alec reminds me of. Like he's the drunk ex at the table trying to act like everything is fine and that he's happy and he's moved on with his life when really inside he's crumbling. That's what he looks like to me. And it's unsettling.
I think he's definitely broken. Obviously whether he did it or not, he's broken.
Mm-hmm. I mean, regardless, even if and this is my worry, I worry that the jury will feel comfortable potentially acquitting him because they think that the financial trial is a lock and he's not getting out of jail anyway.
Well, in the earlier testimony, and I don't remember which one was up there, if it was the Kelly guy, if it was the timeline guy, that he makes sure to reiterate over and over again that he's being charged with like 90 counts that could have a sentence of life in prison. Like he says it repetitively, so that like the world knows. Like,
but I would like for the jury to understand, because I'm curious about this too. Where will he serve his? Okay, let's say that he's acquitted on the murder charges. Mm-hmm. Right, but he's found guilty of the financial crimes. What prison will he serve his time in?
Where was Martha Stewart?
Oh, at the federal penitentiary.
Yeah, she was living the high life. No.
Wasn't
she the one that had like all the things?
Yeah, she was, but she didn't know. I don't think she was living the high life, but I do think she ran that. I think she ran that cell block. I'm not going to play. Listen, I have a lot. I hold Martha in high regard, and I'll tell you why. Because
Snoop's got her back, so I'm sure.
You know why Snoop has her back? You know why Snoop has her back? Because that chick, look, she was in trouble, not for something that she directly did, but because at the time she still held her stockbroker's licensure and she was accused of insider trading, and everybody around her snitched. But you know who didn't snitch? Martha fucking Stewart. And that's why Snoop is down with Martha Stewart, because she's no snitch. She took her time. She did her time
like,
and she didn't snitch. Yeah. Snoop's like, you're my kind of people. You ain't going to snitch.
Okay, so Amanda wants to know, do we all think that he did this? The prosecution has done a good job making me move more towards the fact that I think that he is guilty.
Finally.
I know.
I was waiting for you to get there.
I'm still not 100, which is reasonable doubt. So, and I'm very curious on how the sway will be for me after the defense goes up there. I think that they finally, just in the last couple of days, put some pieces together that I needed.
Yeah.
For my brain to go, okay, I can see why like everybody in the world thinks he did this. And so for anybody who doesn't know, like I only knew the cover story of this. I knew the basic players. I knew kind of the gist of what happened. I never dug into this case. Jen Lou, I think, is the same. We never dug into the case prior. Jen Lou started before I did.
A day before she did. The trial started Monday. I started Sunday.
So I was curious about the trial. Both of us really enjoy watching trials. I think
yes, we do.
I think they're fascinating. And I don't like missing any of it. So it's interesting, like going from somebody who doesn't really know the case or know all the inner workings of the case and all the things that tied everybody together. Like I knew there was a boat crash. I knew that a girlfriend died. I didn't know whose girlfriend it was. You know what I mean? Like I knew certain things. I just didn't know details of it. I knew that the wife and the son had been killed. I knew people thought it was him. So looking at it, the prosecution was really the one that was trying to prove to me that he did it. And I'm still not 100% there, but I can tell you that I am a little bit, I am closer. Hi, Crime Sleuthin. So, yeah, okay, so I mean, I guess I'm going to kind of agree with that lawyer, the lawyer, because I yesterday and today is actually more it for me than it was just today, because it took a couple different aspects for me to wrap my mind around him doing it. I still struggle with. My thought is that he was there, he knows who did it, and won't say who did it, versus that he actually pulled the trigger himself. I don't know. He just seems like such a coward. I just can't. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm not there. I'm not 100%, but I am closer. I do think that they've done a much better job. I'm actually really sad that they rested, for the fact that I think they could have done more. I'm happy they rested because I feel like they put so much shit out there that wasn't necessary.
They still have rebuttal.
They do. But my issue with him doing it is the motive that they're trying to put forward, even though they don't need a motive, makes no sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think that trying to create a different motive, which they did a little bit today with the fact that that Paul had found the baggies of drugs back in the day, yeah, and that she was Googling the drugs. That's actually bigger to me than the financial stuff. And I'm sorry, and I don't know Maggie, so you guys don't take this the wrong way, but we don't know Maggie. We don't know whether she was okay with what he was doing with the finances. We don't know what she knew and what she didn't know. We don't know if she liked the life that she was living. We don't know that. So to like automatically say like, the finances is like what's going to be like the end game. And especially because the whole rumor mill before was that she had hired a forensic consultant and she was having a, divorce attorney and da-da-da. And none of that ended up being true. So,
well,
I can pull the viewers. Hold on.
I think as far as Maggie goes, she very much, I believe Blanca when Blanca said that Maggie was worried about this lawsuit. As far as that Maggie was worried, what she knew with respect, I think we'll have a better understanding potentially of what Maggie knew and didn't know as far as the other financial stuff goes when he actually goes on trial for those crimes. But
right.
I tend to, I am a little bit, I'd like to know more from Jeannie Seckinger if she believed or what evidence she has to believe that Paul was moving things into Maggie's name. And the reason I ask that is because yes, you can forge people's signatures. So there is that potential, but I'm very curious if she saw something or something Alex said, because her testimony was very limited in that capacity. They couldn't really delve into it because this is not the time or the place. But I am curious about that. What did she, why does she say that? What makes her think that Alec was attempting to put assets into Maggie's name? Given that, this is why I find that interesting, because Tinsley, who is the attorney representing Mallory Beach's estate, her family, had Tinsley, yeah, his last name is Tinsley, had said that he threatened Danny through, Alec through Danny, that if he found out that Alec was trying to fix a jury, that he was going to file a lawsuit against Maggie and Paul in Beaufort. And so thinking about that makes me wonder, why would then, if Maggie could potentially become part of a lawsuit, why would you put anything in Maggie's name? Unless he took it as an idle threat. See, I think that this lawsuit,
how is he gonna sue them? That doesn't even make sense to me, that he was gonna sue Maggie in a different county, and that would be like, okay, go ahead, sue Maggie. Maggie doesn't do anything. What are you gonna do?
There had come out, so apparently all of this goes back to some of the videos that were published to social media at the time of the crash, like, them on the boat, the drinking, but then there's the videos before they were filmed, video, when they were at the oyster bake and all that stuff. So evidently, and Maggie was there. So potentially some culpability on her part. I don't know what he had.
That Paul drank, and so he would sue Maggie instead of suing Alec.
He was going to sue exactly. See, because how this all started was Tinsley started his lawsuit in Beaufort, and then they moved it to Hampton and the reason he started it in Beaufort is because Alec had said that no jury will find against him in Hampton County. And right. So, but you can't just pick a place to sue. It has to be somehow connected to the case, I would think. So what I'm thinking is that he had an option, because that maybe it took place in both Beaufort and Hampton County, and so he could sue in either county. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense to me why, if Alec took that as an actual threat, why then he would be moving anything into Maggie's name. But I will, like I started to say, I do think that this lawsuit was jarring. Not the fact that there was a lawsuit. That's not what I'm talking about. But the fact that there was a settlement offered, and that Tinsley was so steadfast in wanting to take it to court, that I don't think that Alec Murdaugh thought that anybody would stand up to him in that way. That's what I think.
But so why not kill Mark Tinsley?
Well, because he would be automatically a suspect in Mark Tinsley's. Nobody was after him.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. You're going to kill your own son, and you're going to kill your own wife.
Is there an actual motive that would make sense, though? Let's be honest. I will say this.
If she was actually, the whole thing about the beginning of it, when they were talking about that she was pacing, and the flip-flops were pacing, which they've never gone back to, and they just totally let it go. If they had talked about that and talked about that there was a fight, and here she is, she'd contacted a divorce attorney the day before or the week before, and so she was telling him that she was filing for divorce, or she she did hire this financial person to go through everything, blah, 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 blah. If there had been something there that would have pissed him off, then it would make more sense to me. Motive isn't something that I agree with. Motive is a reasoning that the person that we're looking at would do it. And it doesn't make sense to me that he does it because of other people being mad about his money. Like, I don't think that just does not make sense. He's not he's not gaining life insurance. Yes, there's properties and there's an estate and things like that are not, they're not going to be the end all be all. And they're also not going to come that quickly. So it just isn't enough for me. Something had to have happened that he would have wanted these two people dead. I don't buy he wanted to buy time so that people would feel sorry for him. Otherwise, why not just kill one? Why not just kill Paul?
Well, this is my, I don't think Alex thinking at all in any way, shape, or form makes sense. Look what he did with the roadside shooting. Okay. You either have a self-harm clause in your life insurance or you don't. And you can find out for yourself. Okay. So wouldn't the easier, more effective thing to do be to find out if you have that type of clause and then plan accordingly, rather than assume that you have that type of clause and hire Curtis Eddie Smith to unalive you in an attempt to scam
you didn't even hire
the
him.
insurance?
Doesn't even pay him to do it. Eddie's just doing it for free.
Okay, ask him to do it. I mean, what makes more sense? Does that even make sense to you?
That makes more sense to me.
And it makes no sense to me. And why? That's the thing. Why would Cousin Eddie take the risk to do it? What is in it for him?
Doesn't make sense, but for
exactly, there's no
asking him to do it because he doesn't want to commit suicide. I don't think this is where I go back to that. I don't think the guy had the balls to do it. I don't think he had the balls to kill himself.
Why would you hire a drug dealer to do that? And why would Eddie want to unalive his best customer? If Alec was really spending $50,000 a week on Oxy, why would
the guy would be flipping dead? What's he doing with the money? What's he doing with the
this is my theory about that. Okay. I listened to that phone call between the lawyers, Alec, and the police. And there's a whole lot of I don't know and I don't remember in there. Okay. Okay. Buying drugs is no more complicated than buying anything else. Okay. If you are a cigarette smoker, or let me give a better, more broad example, a 5-hour energy drinker. All right. I know exactly how much 5-hour energy costs. I know exactly how much if 5-hour energies are 2 for $5, I buy 2 every day and I consume 1, right? I know that I can go through 7 in a week, right? So I would you can do the math. It's not that difficult, right? You would know how much you're spending on your drug of choice. Okay. I personally I don't think Alec was consuming $50,000 a week in drugs. What I think he was doing is laundering money for a pill mill. That's what I think.
Oh, I agree.
I think it's bigger.
That's why you have the whole, they're in cahoots for money laundering already.
Correct.
So
correct. Do I think that he, yes, do I, but this is my thing. OxyContin it's not the strongest opiate you can get, obviously, but it goes Norco, Percocet, Oxy, right? So it's at the top, the lauded would be, and fentanyl would be at the top, right? So, but if you're taking OxyContin and you're taking enough OxyContin that you're spending $50,000 a week on pills, your slip is going to show. Maybe that's a Southern phrase. How else can I put it? You're going to fuck up at some point. Somebody's going to catch you slipping. You're going to make a mistake, or you're going to have a nod, or you're going to do something. You can't hide that level of usage from everybody, including law enforcement. I mean, they're trained to look at that. And I watched Alec's interrogation videos very, very closely, and he does not have the telltale pinned pupils of an opioid user. I think Alec was a drinker, which is why I think he's thin now, because he's no longer on alcohol. Typically, when you take opioids or meth or heroin, you get sober bloat. You actually gain weight after you get sober. Sometimes it comes off and sometimes it doesn't. But Alec is in the reverse. He was a whole pork chop when at the time of his arrest, and now he's down. Maggie found bags of pills.
Right, in May.
But that doesn't mean, I mean, I'm not saying he never took pills. What I'm saying is he was not taking.
I broke it down that he would have had to have taken like 90 pills a day for what he was paying.
Correct. And the fact that he might have he might have been doing some low level selling, or he just maybe, I mean, typically drug users don't have a large stash because they're doing the drugs.
The drug users don't have a large stash.
Yeah, drug users don't have a large stash. Yeah, that's sorry, wrong, reverse. Drug people who are on pills take pills. So they don't typically, I mean, unless it's the day that they get their prescription filled, yes, and obviously day one is the day that they have the most quantity. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot. I think there's a lot more going on with that whole thing, that because it's not out in the open yet, they're not going to discuss it. You know, like they're like, oh yeah, you know, he admitted that he stole money.
Right, exactly.
There's something else there, and I think that'll probably come out later. I want to, so Crime Sleuth, and I know that you said that you had gotten a phone call. So you said that after he records the video and then his phone goes off. So FYI, he records the video ends at 8:45:47. His phone locks at 8:49:01. So there is approximately 3 minutes and 12 seconds that he, you know, that Alec could have left. Just FYI. It's very close, though.
The problem with the video is this. Somewhere around 8, even if you put it at the latest time, 9 o'clock, okay? Going by their cell phone data, all right? Just simply by going from their cell phone data, which I don't think in every single case you can rely on totally, but if we just look at Paul is important, and for me, this is why. Because it's not like Paul was out at the kennels and he was focused on what he was doing at the kennels and that's it. He was engaged in a conversation with a girl, and they were back and forth in a conversation through text pretty regularly. And then it just abruptly stops, and it abruptly stops, but there's no resolution to the conversation. Not, okay, we're going to get together, or good night, or I'll call you later, my phone's about, any of that stuff, which is usually what happens, especially with kids that age. So to me, that's very telling, because of the history on his phone and what he's doing around that time. And it couldn't have been because his phone died, because they have a record of that too. And it didn't even actually die till like 10:30. So the problem is that that Alec is down there at the kennels very, very close in time to when they were likely murdered. And yet he has never, ever, ever admitted to being at those kennels. That is a huge, huge problem for the defense. And if he had explained, if he had changed his story early on, and he had an opportunity, because Rogan was interviewed that night and talked about hearing Alec's voice on the phone call. Maggie's parents come into town and they're staying together. And Rogan says in front of Maggie's parents that he also tells that story that he heard Alec on a phone call when Paul was at the kennels, and Alec never corrects him, never says anything. That's a lawyer mind working for you. Don't acknowledge it. Don't give it credence. Don't give it life.
Right.
But he knew that it was very, very likely that Rogan had said that to the cops. And the best course of action right then, if it was something not nefarious, would be to be like, oh shit, you know what? I forgot. I was down there real quick. Maggie called me because for whatever reason, just say, there could be a plausible explanation for him being down there. But it doesn't appear that there's one, because he's never admitted that it was him that was down there. When we know, I would say, I can't say with 100% certainty, but I would go at least 95% certainty. Alec has a very distinct voice, and he has been identified by no less than 7 people who are familiar with him, who spoke to him on a regular basis, that he was down, that is his voice.
So
those kennels,
during the directed verdict, when the defense was requesting it today, they did say that most the prosecution has proved was that Alec was at the kennels at 8:50 or 8:40 or whatever time they said. I don't remember what it was, but they do say that the most that they have proved is that he was there. So, and Jack, the rumor is that his defense attorneys have said that he will be taking the stand. So I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's a ploy, but it's possible. And Vincent's missing here. How many steps registered on Alec's phone after Bubba and the chicken? Well, so he doesn't have his phone again until 9:02. So he leaves his phone up at the house the entire time he's up there. So it's not recording anything until 9:02 when he's getting ready to go to his parents. And then there was another question on here. When on that timeline do Paul's steps stop or become erratic like Maggie's at 8:55-ish? So they said that Paul had some steps right after this video, but that it wasn't enough to like register because they couldn't actually get an actual count, but there was movement from the time the video was to there. But they said since it's only a few steps to the feed room, that it wouldn't track it. So he doesn't actually have any erratic steps, and there's no craziness with the phone, and there's no movement on the phone, ironically, until like 10:18, which is what they were talking about today too, is that at 10:18, oh shoot, I don't even have that on here yet. 10:18 is when Paul's phone actually is being looked at, which is before the first responders get there, and the first, before Green gets there, and after he says he would have been messing with it, because he says when he checked him, he was messing with it. So I think that answered all of the questions that I saw.
And I will say that one thing that I took away from... Oh, Nadine's here. Hey, Nadine. One thing that I took away...
He seems like the type. He does seem like the type that would take the stand. I agree.
Yeah. One thing that I took away from the Dr. Deputy Chief expert witness yesterday that I just adored was I had a thought about because Harpootlian was trying to work out the angles and couldn't hold the bus's heart with the protractor. And listen, I ain't judging. I did not do well at geometry, so I probably wouldn't know what the hell to do with the
protractor in years either.
Right. So I'm not judging, but when he was trying to talk about the angle in which the shooter would have had to be, it made me think of something like that. It's an off angle or it's odd or whatever, but Alec, I actually think what Alec did the first time he shot him wasn't intended to be fatal. It was intended to stop him. It was intended to prevent him from potentially reaching a firearm and stun him, which is exactly what it did. And then he took a better, more reasonable shooting position, and that's when the second shot was then fired. Maggie, bless her heart, it sounds like she was somewhat terrorized, if just from the way the number of shots, where they went in, what they did, all those things. I mean, I feel bad for both of them, but the big takeaway that I took from his testimony with respect to Paul and Maggie is that they know who killed them. They saw their killer, and can you imagine?
No, it's heartbreaking. Especially after the guy yesterday, when he was actually talking about how Paul moved, because that was one of my questions, is how does he have shots from 2 different angles? And so the fact that he would have turned and started walking out, like, what the hell happened? Like, what the hell? I just got shot. You know what I mean? Like, he had time that he stood there for a second. He was able to actually understand what was happening to him.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was his own dad, he sees him. I mean, they would have had eye contact at that point.
Right. And see, this is what I was sort of imagining in my head, that the first shot stunned him, like, oh my God. And then if it were Alec, which I think it was, he sees his dad, and there's no rush or panic, because I think for a split second, Paul thought it was an accident, that he accidentally shot him. And then obviously it was not an accident. But I feel it's an awful way to go either way. It was painful for both of them either way. I think Maggie suffered more than Paul did, most likely, because of Paul had a brainstem and then the injury, and that's that. But it's awful. It's awful. And to be quite frank, there are some motives, and I understand what you mean about motive and making sense. But I don't think I have ever, like Robert Durst. What was his motive for killing Kathy? What was it? They never, you know what I mean? Like, that she was thinking about divorcing him, that she, but there was never any proof of that either, but and the lengths that he went to. What was his motive for killing Morris Black? Morris Black maybe recognized him. This is according to Durst. There was no proof of it, that Morris Black recognized him and was trying to blackmail him, so he cut him up into 87 different pieces. I mean, I don't think it was that many, but you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And he rented that house or that condo in Houston dressed as a fucking woman. I mean, come on, like, that's, I don't know, maybe it's a money thing, but it's not like Alec didn't have like Durst money. Durst had money. Well, his family
Durst had money.
Alec had.
I don't even know if this dude has money. Like, part of me thinks that he's got it stashed away where nobody can find it. And the other part of me is like, did he actually have any money stashed away? Would they not have been able to find it by now?
I think Alec is like, how do I explain it? Do I think he had physical money? I don't know. He's probably got a little bit maybe stashed away, and maybe they can't find it. But I think more than anything, he's more like a brand. The name where he lives, it doesn't mean anything anywhere else, but in Hampton County, it means something. You know what I mean?
Right, because it didn't mean shit to me when I heard his
Right.
name. I was like, okay, that's just some dude who had some money. Jessica
Right,
says
like
in the
if I
comments he went there after. But wouldn't they have been able to figure? I think that too, because I know he went there after. But then I'm like, wouldn't they have been able to actually figure something out yet?
I think it depends, because it depends on what kind of relationships the United States has with another country where the banking account might be. If we don't have a good relationship, they're not under any obligation to honor a subpoena from another country. They don't have to. It's just that usually they do, because the United States and whatever country, we have a good working relationship, but they don't have to honor it.
Caroline, that's interesting. No, he just couldn't. He didn't want to accept any responsibility, so likely he associated his downfall with the boat accident. So he was furious with Paul, and Maggie was just in case she didn't want to stay with the program.
I don't think Maggie was actually intending on divorcing Paul. Why should she? Or Alec? Why would she?
She was no. There's no way she could, especially if she did know about the finances. Then there wasn't half money to get.
Right.
You know what
But
I'm
either
saying? There was nothing
exactly.
for her. So it just doesn't. No, I don't think that. I don't think there was any divorce. I don't think that was even.
And why
like
would it
I
even
can't
be
feel bad, but
necessary?
I'm
They
100% sure that
they were
there was,
whatever was going on in there. She at that point, Maggie had it all right. She came to she chilled at Edisto and or
dude, and that
Edisto.
house is gorgeous.
Yeah. She
It's
had
on
a
the
beach
market.
house.
It's on Zillow for sale.
She had, she had the kennels so she could go visit. I mean, she had her house dogs with her all the time, but if she wanted, she there was no reason to divorce Paul or Alec. Everything was working out swimmingly. She had her own place, he had his, and everything was fine. They still showed up together for functions. I just find it very messed up that the whole reason for her even being in Moselle, I didn't mean to say Modesto, Moselle, was to go and see Alec's dad, and that didn't happen at all. Alec didn't even go see his dad that night, which was the plan. And there was no reason really for him to go see his mother.
Everybody says that was the plan, but I don't know how that was the plan. I've never seen anybody actually say it was a plan.
There was a text.
Not that he responds to.
Alec, no, she sent the text. Alec wants me to go, and her sister testified to something with respect to that. Alec wanted her to come home. So that they could go visit his dad.
But they never
She'd asked him to. But she
doesn't get there until 8:17 at night. They're not going to have dinner and then go visit his dad at 9 o'clock.
But why go? This is the other part. This is the part I don't understand. Why go see his mother? She was asleep. There wasn't anything going on. He could have. This is why the circumstances are starting to add up in a way that makes it more likely than not that he killed his family, because there's no reason for him to go see his mom. Shelley was there. She was asleep. She wasn't having an episode. There was no reason for him to go check on her. Why check on her when that's her night time? Everybody that has ever listened to me, even Teresa, knows what time of day. Now, I have adjusted my naps schedule due to the Murdaugh trial, but everybody knows that every day at 2 o'clock is Jenn Lou's nap time. Everybody knows that. You can set your watches by it. Okay? Would you come and visit me during nap time, Teresa?
No, hell no.
No, of course not. I wouldn't visit anybody during nap time. He knows his mom's schedule. He knew she would be asleep. He needed to be seen by somebody. And not just anybody. Somebody he could manipulate, i.e. Shelley. Yes, I know Christine G would come during nap time, but she has no couth. Everybody in the world but Christine G with the couth.
Somebody needs to check Peyton's armpits and see if she's okay.
But that just doesn't make sense. He needed to be seen by somebody he could manipulate, which would have been the caretakers. That's the truth, the caregivers. That's why he offered Shelley money for her wedding. Money he didn't even have. At that time, he was overdrawn in his account $350,000, and he's offering money to pay for a wedding. You don't have money to fix your overdraft fee, fool. What are you talking about? Or your overdraft, not your fee, because that was only $5.
Yeah, how nice is that?
But still.
Let me see what the poll. I want to see what the poll is right now, because they do this.
Yeah, check your poll.
They do it on Law and Crime every day.
Yes, they do.
Every day I hit hung jury every time. Just gonna put that out there if you're looking to see who's hitting.
You're that 5%. Mm-hmm.
I am. So it's interesting to me though, because they're typically like in the 80 something percent that he's guilty. Just a couple, maybe 2-3% that he's not guilty. And their hung jury is kind of low, 5 to 8%. But when I do the poll, because I do it on every one of my Murdaugh lives, I have my percent is always so much higher with hung jury and not guilty.
Interesting.
So it's 36% hung jury right now, 12% not guilty, and 52% guilty.
Wow.
Interesting,
That's
huh?
interesting. It's very interesting. I
Suck
think
my
that
dick, what's her temp? I don't know what her temp is. I checked her armpit though, and it felt a little warm.
I think that I think that today is the case that the state always intended to present. I think that it would have been a lot clearer to us a week ago if we were seeing this evidence in the order in which it was intended to be presented. That financial stuff wasn't supposed to come in. So I think I wish they would have just gone ahead and presented the case they intended to present, and then at the end present the motive. I wish they would have done that.
The only thing is if they were going to go with this whole financial thing as the motive, it would have lost everything. I thought that too. I thought like they should put the motive at the end with this whole financial stuff, but I was so like bored during most of that. I was like, they only needed a couple people to go up there and testify, and they just it was overkill in my opinion.
Yeah. And I was and like I said before, when he testified, I was disappointed in Tinsley's testimony in front of the jury. I think he should have kept it the way I think he should have testified the exact same way that he testified in front of the judge.
Likable.
He was, and I think he allowed Harpootlian to get under his skin, because right before he was called to the stand, he made, Harpootlian made the judge aware of the GoFundMe, and that Tinsley had donated to it first in his name and then changed it to anonymous, blah, blah, blah. And I think he got under Tinsley's skin, and I think Tinsley showboated in an effort to make himself seem more likable to the jury. But if he would have just said how he said it originally, the jury would have liked him. And I don't think he needed to be worried about them disliking or side-eyeing him for any potential impropriety on the part of donating to a GoFundMe, because so many people were so sympathetic to Shelley. It wouldn't have been an issue. He shouldn't have let him get under his skin. You got played by the poot, Tinsley.
He did.
The poot played you.
Did. But I think that he was just like over the whole thing anyways. Like he just has such a dislike for him that it came across on the stand, and I don't think that bodes well for a jury, because then it's like you're testifying against them because of how much you don't like them, versus like other professionals that took the stand. It was more about this is what I've uncovered, versus like I don't like him, or I know him, or I don't know him. You know what I mean? It was like, this is what I've actually done with my own research.
Exactly. I would be interested in getting my pause on the investigation into the investigation of the boat crash that Mark Tinsley, is it Mark Tinsley? I think so. But yeah, Mr. Tinsley did. Mark Tinsley did. I would love to see his files.
But Paul's trial wasn't coming though. It was just a hearing on
I was confused by that because of the way that it was presented in Low Country, but now I'm clear.
Yeah, okay. So, I think a lot of people thought that though, like, everything was going to explode on June 10th, but it's like, not necessarily. That was a motions hearing where the judge was going to rule on the motions that Mark Tinsley had presented. And it was just for the civil case. So the judge would have ultimately ruled, and like the one where Tinsley was just testifying in front of the judge, saying like, I have the paper. Do you want to see it? And it's the paper basically is saying like, either they'll do it or I'll go ahead and rule on it like on the 10th. So it was either Alec and his attorneys are going to hand you over his financials to prove that he's broke, or I'll make them hand them over on June 10th. Like I'll sign the motion, but then they'll still have a certain amount of time where they have to, he'd have to get that over. I just don't feel like the June 10th was explosive the way that the prosecution wants to make it. And that was kind of a,
well, I thought that what I took from the 10th was what the prosecution was saying was that if you look at the chain of events as a domino, right? Domino set up. The first domino to fall was the donkey barbecue that day, June 7th, with Jeannie Seconder. That was the first domino. And the second domino would have been that, whatever, the 10th, which at some point, either they would have agreed, Alec and his lawyers would have agreed to turn over the financials, which then would have brought stuff to light, or the judge would have ordered it be done on the 10th. But at the end of the day, it was a combination of the confrontation between Jeannie Seconder and knowing that on the 10th that the judge may order him to produce his financial records. And I would imagine if the judge had ordered them to turn over their financials, there would have been a time limit. It wouldn't have just been like, do it when you get a second. It would have been like by this day.
So I'm like, so he would have been, the judgment would have come on the 10th saying, hey, you have to turn over your financials. You have 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is. And then they would have been, I mean, things would have still been moving along. So.
Right. And I think what Alec did not plan on was the confrontation between he and Jeannie that day. I think Jeannie might have actually been the spark more than the 10th, but because then it was coming at him from both sides. And the truth of the matter is the firm and Alec are very lucky that Jeannie uncovered the shit before Tinsley did, because had it been uncovered as a result of handing over financials because of this boat lawsuit and Mark Tinsley had been the one to uncover and unravel the schemes, the firm would have been held liable too. And they would it would have caused a lot more issues than it did. This way.
Well, I think the other thing is you can't convince me that this firm lost $5 million, $10 million and just didn't flip a notice. That makes no sense.
Well, this is what I think was happening. I think initially, what he was doing was shorting them, writing the, turning over the paperwork so it didn't appear that they were getting shorted, who was intercepting. And so, but once it all came to a head, the reason that they were owed is because they were being told that the settlement was for X amount of money and their fees were X amount when he was siphoning off the top. So he was giving them a low ball on the settlement number, which then affects the fees, right? Because the fees are a percentage. So what he was really doing is he was lying to the firm and he was scheming the firm, but the way he was doing it wasn't overt and like actually going into a cash register and taking out money. It was going to be uncovered eventually. What complicated the matter is that he was stealing from the clients. See, you can work it out when it's the firm, but when it's the firm and the clients, that's a problem. And at the end of the day, he works for the firm. And so the firm can be held liable, which is why Jeannie was panicking. Not just by the clients, but by the IRS. They want their fucking money. And they don't care.
Right.
That's what it was about. And then there was...
None of these charges are federal, like tax evasion charges or anything, are they?
No, I don't think so. But part of the problem is with Jeannie as well is that what they were also afraid of, based on conversations between Alec and Jeannie and I guess his paralegal, etc., it looked to Jeannie as if Alec were trying to hide assets, which is also illegal because he was attempting to hide assets because of the boat lawsuit. See, that's why the 10th means more, I think, than what you're giving it credit for, because he was clearly worried about this motion, Teresa. Otherwise, why would he be trying to move shit around? Why would he be trying to hide anything? If he wasn't worried about it, what would be the point? You only hide shit if you're worried. He was worried.
Well, I don't think he wanted to give up the money. So he was moving it so that they could have the money still.
Right. But that motion was filed. He knew that this was the thing. Tinsley was not going to just settle with him for some BS amount, where that is what Alec was good at, that's what most personal injury attorneys are good at. They're good at getting a good settlement so that you don't have to go to trial, because those are expensive. So he gave, through his attorney, Alec is giving Tinsley this lowball settlement offer and acting like he should, basically get the shaft and turn around and give him a smile. And Tinsley was like, no, you have more than this. You're not destitute. See, Tinsley thought he was being bullshitted. The truth of the matter is, when Alec was telling him he didn't have the money, he actually didn't have the money.
I know. I think that's the most ironic part of the whole thing.
Right. But Tinsley was like, there's no way, because I'm looking at the roster and I can see the amount of cases that you have and settlements, you're getting a settlement, you're making money. So why are you lying? That's it. I think Mark Tinsley was pissed off at being lied to. And I can honestly say I don't blame him, because I don't like to be lied to either. It pisses me off. It's like you're insulting my intelligence. You're living high on the hog, and then you're telling me that you're broke. Get bent. Now you're lying, and you're just insulting the shit out of me. Now I'm really coming for you. I think that's what happened.
So Christine said that there was a case that the law firm had against Tinsley back in like 2010. She said it was like a $2.5 million judgment. I don't know anything about it. So
neither do I.
You know what it was for? Like, what was he being sued for? And that's I would like to know that, because I mean there's obviously a whole issue there, because even like he says, like Alec was like, I thought we were friends, and he's like, yeah, no, you think that I'm not going to take you for everything, and I'm like, wow, like you weren't friends. You may have thought you were friends, but you definitely weren't friends.
The only thing that I can think of is that Christine is talking about is that the firm represented somebody, Tinsley represented they were opposing sides.
So it wasn't a direct. I could find.
Yeah, they won over Tinsley.
Hi, Jeanette.
That's different. Hey, Jeanette. Yeah, see, she's saying over.
It is different, but if they actually sued him, then that's, I mean, whoo.
Yes, that's what she means. That's what she said. Yeah, they lost, and he did say that he had been on opposing sides with the firm before. And I think that with the accident, I understand Mallory Beach's mom's why she was upset, because she wanted to go down there where her daughter was, and she wasn't allowed to, and yet the Murdaughs, not only were they allowed, the fucking tape was lifted for them. You know what I mean? And there is video, and you can see Anthony Cook in it, and it's that where he says, it's him right there, it's a Murdaugh, good luck, or something to that effect. You know what I'm saying? Yep. That whole conversation. Yep. It was kind of established that nothing was going to happen. And I can see that Mark Tinsley might have had an ego and an issue and whatever, but at the end of the day, if Alec wasn't stealing and wasn't a sticky-fingered thief, none of this would have happened. None of it. And the truth of the matter is, and it's something that not everybody wants to talk about, but Mark Tinsley, Mallory Beach was not the only, her family was not the only family suing Alec.
The other
You
kid
know,
was too.
the other kids were too. And the thing is that Alec was barely, he wasn't, he was way underinsured. And like, these kids had some really bad injuries, you know, that the medical bills alone were going to be astronomical. And there was, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, this was a snowball effect.
Do you think that he's going to take the stand?
I think he's stupid enough to, yes. I think it would be a horrible, horrible, horrible idea. He, after everything that has come out, Alec might be very good at making closing arguments in front of a jury on behalf of a client. But that ship has sailed. He will not have, this is not that. Being on the stand is not a closing argument. You're not in control. So, no, abso-fucking-lutely not.
Here, hold on, I'm gonna ask the chat.
I think he's stupid enough to think that he can turn this around and somehow explain this to the jury. But the truth of the matter is, it would be idiotic on a level that they don't even have exponents for at this point. Like, it's been proven over and over and over in front of the jury. Some of it, a lot of it, the main stuff is Alec's own damn words. He lied. They have him on tape or audio admitting to lying to the police about the roadside shooting. Your client admitted he's a liar. Do not put his ass up on that stand. That would be the worst thing that you could do.
What benefits him is that he couldn't go forward with lying. He had to tell the truth because he didn't want them wasting their time. So he did come clean and tell the truth.
But did he tell the truth?
But if he did kill his wife and son, then he would have to come forward and tell the truth, is what the defense is that's what they're gonna go with.
That is that is circular logic, and it makes no sense.
All they have to do is get one. They only have to get one.
I know that the bar is set real low for the defense with the 12 versus 1.
We got at least a week.
Teresa, you think you're the one that, of the two of us, you held out the most doubt that Alec could potentially be guilty, right?
I'm still there.
Okay, so you're still there. What is it that Alec, red-faced Murdaugh, could possibly say to you on that stand that it would explain this away?
Oh, I don't
seriously.
Think
okay, but for the purposes of this argument, you're the one juror. Okay, for this experiment, you're the one juror because you're the one that already had reasonable doubt. Your girl over here is ready to lock him up and throw away the key. So
my motive, according to the prosecution, is that I did it all for money, right?
Right.
That's their motive that they're going with. Mine is my family knew about the money. Maggie knew about the money. Maggie knew what I was doing with the money. Maggie knew where the money was coming from. I had no reason to hide anything from her. Prove she didn't.
If he got up there and said that his family knew everything, he wasn't trying to keep it from his family, though, ding dong. He was trying to keep it from the public, from the clients.
So why kill your family?
To stop the lawsuit. Tinsley said that nobody paid. This is a huge point that Tinsley made that I wish he would have made again, but he was so busy showboating, it got lost. Tinsley, after the shooting occurred, Tinsley was going, if it had turned out that he had been the victim of vigilante justice, Tinsley would have dropped him as a defendant from the lawsuit because he then would have become a sympathetic defendant. And he didn't want that. And who would know better than a personal injury lawyer how to make yourself be how to get a sympathetic defendant? Alec knows how to manipulate. I'm telling you that I think that he intended to frame Cousin Eddie for all 3 murders. That's what I think.
So you do think he intended to die in September?
I do think he intended to die, but I think that Cousin Eddie at the last minute was like, this motherfucker's trying to screw me over, and he missed. I think the miss was intentional. I think Cousin Eddie might have put it all together and been like, oh, no, 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 no. Well, I mean, Jim Griffin has said as much when he was questioning the Officer Owens. He's the one that brought up Griffin and the Sugar Hill Gang, or whatever the gang was. I know it's not is it the Sugar Hill Gang? I only remember Sugar Hill Gang as the rap people, but I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about. Crap. Sugar Hill doesn't sound right.
Let's just call them the Cornbread Mafia, for Pete's sake. It's about the same damn thing. I do think he did. I actually do think he had intention of dying. I actually do. I think he did see it was his only way out. I do. Why would you hand somebody a gun if you don't intend to die? That is the stupidest thing ever. Because what if he hadn't have missed? What if 911 didn't get there in time? That's a big risk to take. He had to at least be willing to accept the fact that he might die. How about that?
Sandhill.
The Sandhill Gang.
Yeah, there you go.
He had to at least he put a gun in a drug dealer's hand. Is there anything about Curtis Eddie Smith that screams sober to you? He's been arrested on meth charges too. Okay.
But I don't understand how he's the drug dealer then. That makes sense.
I don't think he was. I think he might have been the middleman. I think he might have been pushing drugs, but not to Alec. He wasn't dealing to Alec.
What'd Crystal say?
He was also a client.
He didn't want to die. He called Blanca for the health insurance cards before he even went there. Yeah, that's interesting.
But you have to be willing to it. You have to admit that if you put a gun in somebody's hand and tell them to shoot you, it's kind of like at the end of Scream. And if you haven't seen the first Scream by now, spoiler alert, but it's too damn bad because that movie's like 20 years old. You should have seen it by now. When Stu and what's his face at the end, when he stabs Stu and he says, "They got too deep." They both had to be willing to take they were both willing to take a risk there. That they were going to, they had to know that there was at least a chance that they might die. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't be trusting Eddie that he was going to make sure that I didn't die.
I wouldn't trust anybody. I would not give a gun to somebody and say, "Go ahead and shoot me." And even if, what does the health insurance have to do? I mean, I'm not arguing with you. It doesn't make it's weird that he called for health insurance.
Cards.
But at the end of the day, what hospital is going to be like, "Oh, you got shot in the head. Is your insurance current?" No, we don't cover that. No. If you go into the emergency room, they're going to treat you regardless.
Well, this is interesting though, because if his life insurance was included on his health insurance information, sometimes it is. I don't know who he had, so I can't answer that.
Right.
Maybe that's why he wanted it, but then he would have realized, like, oh, I could do it myself. Right?
What? Say that again. I got distracted by chat. Sorry.
I'm looking over there.
I'm sorry.
I was saying that he would have realized he could have done it himself.
Right.
Because he didn't have a suicide thing, right? His
Ri-
insurance didn't have a suicide clause.
I don't remember if it did or if it didn't.
I thought they said something today about it.
But see, Andrew, at that point on June 7th, he wasn't fired. He didn't actually get fired until September, like 2nd or 4th. No, I think it might have been 3rd or the 4th is the roadside shooting. So
But I think it's the 3rd.
it was the 3rd that he got fired.
So you guys actually think that he was gonna let Eddie shoot him and not die? Like that he trusted that Eddie had a good enough shot to not actually kill him? Especially in the head. I mean, I've heard of a lot of, things where people will either shoot themselves in the leg, the foot,
Stomach.
Stomach. I've never, shoot me in the head, and I trust that you have a good enough shot. I don't know. That's scary to me.
Right. That doesn't say like that's not. I would feel more comfortable if we were playing pool and you had to make some kind of crazy ass shot to win. I would bet more on that than I would bet handing anybody, let alone Curtis Eddie Smith, a fucking 38 and saying,
That's
"Good
not the guy
luck."
I'm going with.
No.
That's like, I don't even know what to think anymore. So how did he only have a cut and a bruise if he was shot in the head? I don't even understand that.
I don't either. I mean,
Yeah, I think he was planning on dying, and I think that Eddie screwed up.
Okay, even if you don't believe that he intended to die, you have to at least I mean, it had to be within the realm of possibilities that he was willing to take the risk. I mean, he was taking a headshot for Pete's sake. That's just inherently risky, just like Teresa said. So he had to at least be willing to take the chance that he may not survive.
Z coming in saying he wasn't even shot, that he just fell on the street and got a little owie. And Andrew, I agree. I don't think that there's somebody that I'm that close to that could have a destructive addiction for 20 years and I wouldn't have a clue.
Right.
I don't think that would be the case. But I also am not sure that they didn't know. So that's kind of my other thought is why did her sister say something about, like, he was the little detective and he was the one that was keeping Alec in line, basically. Eddie said on an interview that he was not shot. I saw he was not shot in the head. He also said that if he wanted to shoot him to kill him, he wouldn't have missed.
He also said that they fought over the gun and it went off.
Adjusted fate. I think that's the other possibility. I think that there was people that needed that he was in a bad place with, and that's how it was going to go. If that's the case. If he didn't do it, that's what I think happened.
How was he? Okay, so he wasn't shot.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm gonna have to wait for frickin' Curtis Eddie. See what his trial's about. They better stream that. We're owed at this point.
Somebody asked if they were in the same prison or same jail. That was funny.
Well, Eddie's lawyer is very concerned for his safety. He's in protective custody.
I know.
You know who should be worried?
Alec?
Yeah. After that tape was played, he ratting out all kinds of people.
Oh, yeah. He didn't care.
No. All right, let's Let's see Ashley, because she's got the crazy eyes already. And I don't know if that's an unfortunate pause or if that's just what's going on in this.
It's a pause because the other one was even worse. Okay, so anybody who wasn't here earlier, we were talking a little bit about the Idaho 4 case and what's kind of happening with Ashley Banfield. And so Mallory was kind enough to send me the clip that I had watched with her yesterday. So this is a little bit of a change of subject. So, but I'm concerned for Ashley Banfield's well-being at this point. She should be continuing to cover this case. She probably needs to start covering other cases and let this one go a little bit. But that's just
she might be too personally invested. Let's see.
I think she might be a little bit. All right. So I haven't watched this particular clip to see if this is all of it, but I'll let you know if it's exactly what I saw yesterday.
Okay, I'm ready.
But tonight I'm coming back with some more exclusive material on the Idaho murder, so I hope you will stay through
you have to pay attention to her hands.
Ensuing moments.
Okay.
I think this is one of the most important issues that has come across the radar in the Idaho murder case, because I like criminal procedure. I've been, kind of steeped in it for a long time, and
Can you pause just real quick? I have to say something. Okay. I know that you like criminal procedure and you've been steeped in it a long time, but Ashley, I remember you, and you used to work for Fox 4 in the DFW area, and we used to learn about whether we're going to school that day or not for a snow day, and sometimes you mess that shit up. I do remember that. So, okay. That's all I wanted to put out there. I see you, Ashley Banfield. All right, I'm ready.
Here we go.
when something gets overturned on appeal. I can't stand it because sometimes it's so preventable, right? Especially if you know in advance and you do something about it. And I kind of see something percolating here. The experts know better, and they're having a field day arguing online about this. And so I know it's a really important issue.
Okay.
It has to do with conflict of interest. I know we've talked about it before, but I have some breaking news on this tonight. So,
do you have actual breaking news or just pretend breaking news, Ashley? Because something tells me it's pretend breaking news. And first of all, you're way too hype for something that is fairly common. I don't understand how you can be steeped in legalities and covering legal cases and not understand that there is a difference between being represented by first of all, it's a public defender, and she is the head of the public defender's office. I would imagine that her name is attached to many criminal cases, and she wasn't ever in court because she's in charge of that office. Let's start there. Okay.
Ashley really has it in for Ann Taylor. Let me just tell you.
She really does. But let's move forward just a little bit. Get your head up off get your ass up off your shoulders. Okay. And remember how conflict of interest would work in this situation. Not any situation, the one that you're so steamed about right now. The conflict would be for Brian. And it's easily overcome with a waiver. She's the only death penalty qualified attorney that can represent him. What would you like to see happen, Ashley? Should we all lose our freaking minds and go ham on the air?
Or just wait.
Or just maybe take a wait and see approach and see what happens. No, let's all flip out. Okay, I'm done. Please continue.
Well, the issue has been Brian Kohberger's public defender, Ann Taylor, right?
Uh-huh.
She showed up and walked into court with him the very first time. She's a very accomplished attorney. Holy cow. She's got
we get it. You're not impressed with her or the clothing line. Gotcha.
His office. So looked like it was a pretty good match, especially for a case that was important as this. Could be a death penalty case. I'll repeat. Could be a death penalty case. You have to have a star. But you have to have a clean star. Someone who has no conflicts in her past representations. And along came the fact that she had indeed represented the mother of Kara Kernodle, one of the alleged victims of Brian Kohberger, her client, and then two other parents of the victims. Right? So that, all of a sudden, it's like, it seemed so clear. Well, you cannot have represented the children of parents who are now going to be in that courtroom watching you defend their child's alleged.
Well, she's not.
You
Wait a
can't-
minute. Stop right there. She's not representing the children of parents, Nimrod. She's representing the children's parents, is what you're trying to say. Not the children of parents. She's not represent. Oh my God, I can't. All right, I'm already annoyed with you, Ashley.
This is you gotta wait. This is not even the best part.
Jesus.
And yet there's some wiggle room. But with all of the conflagration that happened, it turns out now there has been a meeting. And we have sources close to the prosecution who have told us that Ann Taylor has had a meeting with the judge on this exact issue.
That's the breaking
conflict of
news.
interest issue. Private meeting, behind closed doors.
That's what private means.
All the issues.
Mhm.
Likely she was called in to lay out, tell me everything you did with client A, client B, and client C. Tell me everything so that we can exclude the possibility of a
How does she know
conflict.
that's what was said? If it's
And
behind
in
closed
this
doors?
review process,
Right.
my source has told me that it's been cleared. No conflict, according to the judge.
Okay.
So,
So why you got to be in your bonnet?
Your face?
I mean,
Yes.
Karen Northington, Ben Mogan, Corey Hattrock, all parents of the deceased victims in this case, all had Ann Taylor on their cases, right? So it is such a curious issue. What
Is
did
it?
she tell the judge? Like, what did she lay out to the judge in order for the judge in this case to say, nothing to see here, no conflict problem? Did she see our interview? Did the judge see our interview with Ann Taylor's previous client, who she dropped on the very day she showed up in that courtroom with her
the
brand new
judge
client?
was
Frank
watching
Overton?
you.
Literally
Yeah.
dropped her former client, Karen Northington, that's Xana Kernodle's mom.
You mean the one that, bless her heart,
And they were
didn't
still,
even bother to show up for her own hearing? That client?
by the way,
Okay.
Karen Northington had no idea that this had gone on. She had no notification of it, she told us. And did Ann Taylor know about the interview that we conducted on this program with Xana's mom, in which she laid out that she was gobsmacked by all of this, that she had no idea? Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com
That's
to
not
find
even the
News
good
Nation
part.
on your
Hold
television
on, I'm gonna have to
provider.
see if
And
there's another
don't forget
clip
to
right after this. Give me a second.
Okay,
Because-
babe.
I'm gonna have to turn my camera on for this part because she does this stuff with her hands,
Uh-huh.
and she's like, "We, me, and you guys, we're a part of this. We're a part of this," or whatever she's. I don't remember exactly what she's saying. And the other thing she's doing, she does this.
Oh, God.
I don't even know what it's about.
No, Ashley, there's you and there's me. There is no we, ma'am. I don't want to be part of anything that you're a part of.
Oh, come
You have a 46-year-old woman over here who got her good enough diploma, who understands I can't help but think that you're being deliberately obtuse.
It's so strange, and I'm like, is this supposed to be like acting? Is she acting? Like she's so just dumbfounded by this, and she's so upset that the judge says there's no conflict. But I'm like, isn't that what you wanted to happen? Like the
Right.
3 weeks that you've been complaining about it?
So you mean you thought there was an issue? You raised and you said that there was, right? You were all
You wanted the judge
Twitter
to look at
over
and
it.
make sure there was no conflict. Now that the judge looks at
Right.
it, says there's no conflict. Now
you're
have
still not happy.
No, now she's even more pissed.
You
with
know
her-
who you're acting like, Ashley Banfield? Ashley, you're acting like that food critic that came to eat at the Krusty Krab and swore up and down that SpongeBob had not put 2 pickles on the Krabby Patty, and by the end of the episode, the spoiler alert, the 2 pickles were under his tongue. This is how you're acting right now.
It's this
I
one.
know somebody else who gets a little agita when it comes to this.
Who gets a little what?
Mark Garagos. And the reason I know Mark Garagos gets agita with it is because he has a lot of high-profile cases in his past. He's here to help.
What is agita? What are you talking about? What is that word?
I don't know, but that's not it, because that happens after she goes all ham on the camera, yelling about the fact that we are all part of this and we're not going to hear anything. And she does these weird hand things.
We're making fun of her, Heather. Don't you worry. Don't stick around. I'm sure I can pull out at least 3 or 4 more jokes at her expense.
I know, Heather. Don't you worry. I'm totally right there with. Did she step on a bee? Vincent's missing here. Heather, I'm totally there with you. I don't even. I just, like I said, I don't even watch anymore. But I had to see this part because the whole
everybody's talking about it.
About how I really like Ashley Banfield. I know that she gets a little, she's a little out there, but I think it's like theatrical, and that's kind of what it is. Like Nancy Grace, they have their own little theatrics.
Oh, but Angina.
I literally am starting to become concerned for her well-being.
Bless it.
So they cut it. Ellie says they cut it. They totally cut it. I wonder if Mallory knows that, because that's the beginning of it, but she gets real fired up.
She gets lit, huh?
Yeah,
somebody has to have it. Okay, don't search news. Don't go on News Nation. Just search Ashley Banfield, Idaho 4. Just in the regular YouTube. Somebody clip that.
Well, I hope that if Mallory's on Brittany's and they're going to talk about it, I hope that
Mallory recorded it.
Mallory has it on her TV. That's where we were watching it. So I hope she plays it straight from there. Because, here, let me filter. My mouse. I think my battery in my mouse is dying because it's acting up.
Jessica, nobody is going to hire me to be on News Nation. I am a liability. I already like this music.
Such a curious issue. What did she tell the judge? What did she lay out to the judge in order for the judge in this case to say, nothing to see here, no conflict problem? Did she see our interview? Did the judge see our interview? Van Taylor's previous client, who she dropped on the very day she showed up in that courtroom with her brand new client.
Ajita, I've never. I know angina, but I've never heard that other word.
That's Xana Cornoto's mom. Dropped her that day, and they were still active. Like it was still an active pending case. By the way, Kara Northington had no idea that this had gone on. She had no notification of it, she told us.
Dang it. I don't know. I don't see it because now we're at 2 days. Yeah, I don't know, but it's hopefully Mallory plays it over there, and then that way you guys can see it. Because man, what's that channel name? iNeighborhood. Here, I'm so not good. I hate doing things on the computer because I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Where was it? I'll put it in here. I'll put it in the chat so you guys can. There, that's that channel. I don't know. It was just I was like, wow, Ashley, like you, and I can't believe they actually cut it out. She would be doing, yes, Jessica, she would be the person who was on here live for like 8 hours going over every single thing to do with Idaho. And it would be, Agita is Italian for indigestion.
I've never heard of it. I've heard of angina, but never that agita. I've never.
I've never heard of it. It's new to me. Oh, all right.
I know.
We've been on here for almost 3.5 hours.
We have not. Oh my God.
Yeah, we have. We just talk to each other, like, and just keeps the time just goes, and we're like, what the hell?
Doesn't even feel like it's been that long.
We had 3 days, no trial.
Don't worry, you guys. I'll figure out something.
Ellie, she doesn't have it? So she's got it recorded on her TV. So she's going to have to just record it so that you guys can see the whole with her fingers.
Yes. I can't believe that somebody doesn't have it clipped.
I wasn't clipped. She's going to need to clip it, throw it on the channel.
Yup.
Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me on Friday.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Always, anytime. You're always welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you guys in chat. You guys are all so nice.
You guys, I know
Agita. All right.
It's a different word for agitation. We'll have to do some research on it. I cannot even believe how many times in the past 8 minutes you all have said the exact same thing I said within the past 5 hours.
You know what I'm going to do I'm going to make good use of this downtime with the court. I'm calling OnStar. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that.
Do it.
I am curious. You think I should? These are.
What are you going to say? We can't give you any information?
It's true.
Try it. See what happens.
I'm not going to call them live, though. I'm going to be,
Don't do that.
I'm going to have some coups. Not a lot, but just some. Well, they're recording me. They record their calls for quality control.
That's what you just say. I'm recording you for quality control.
And training purposes.
Because we need to train up on how OnStar works.
You don't know who I'm training.
Thank you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for spending your Friday night here with me and Jen Lou. We really appreciate you guys.
We do. Thank you guys. Good night.
Go enjoy your 3-day weekend with no trial. Maybe do some research and we can figure out what agita is.
I'm looking into OnStar. All right. Bye, Teresa. Bye, you guys.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.